Chosen one, and something is shifting in you right now. You may not have a word for it yet. You may have tried to describe it to someone you trust and found that the language collapsed before it reached your lips. It is bigger than a feeling. It is deeper than a mood. Something in you has been turning, slowly and with great weight, toward a direction that the people around you cannot see. And the reason you are here in this moment, receiving these words, is not coincidence. There is no accidental path to a message that was made for you. A force that knows your name and knows the weight you have been carrying has placed this here. What I am about to say is not meant for everyone. It is meant for you. The title of this message carries a word that may have startled you: duty, God, duty, and then richness forever. And beneath it, a line that may have reached something inside you that you did not even realize was hungry. God said, do not look for work. If you felt something move when you read that, if something in your chest loosened or tightened or both at the same time, that is not a random reaction. That is recognition. And recognition is the first form of truth your body receives before your mind can argue with it. So before we go any further, I want you to understand what this message is and what it is not. This is not a promise that you will never work again. This is not permission to be passive in the face of your calling. This is something far more radical. This is a reorientation of where your provision comes from, who is responsible for your abundance, and what your role actually is in the sacred economy of heaven. Because what God has been saying to certain people in this season is not lazy. It is not irresponsible. It is the most advanced level of spiritual trust that exists. The level where you stop straining to generate what only He can release. The eagle does not flap. This is the thing most people miss about the eagle. When it rises to its greatest height, it is not working harder than the birds below. It is not muscling its way upward with frantic wing beats. It has found the thermal, the invisible column of warm air rising from the earth, and it has spread its wings and surrendered its weight to what is already moving. The other birds exhaust themselves trying to reach the height. The eagle reaches in stillness, and the eagle does not apologize for the thermal. The eagle does not look down at the exhausted birds and feel guilty for rising. It simply spreads its wings, and it rises, because that is what it was made to do. And that is what you were made to do. You are entering a season where the thermal is rising beneath you. The invisible current of divine provision is already in motion. The only question is whether you will keep flapping, burning yourself out trying to generate what is already being released on your behalf, or whether you will learn to open your wings and trust the current you cannot see. That is what this message is about. That is the weight it carries, and you have been prepared to hear it in ways you may not yet understand, but your spirit already does. Before we go deeper, I want to name 5 things that many of you have been experiencing. 5 signs that you are exactly where this message was meant to find you. I am not going to give you a list and rush through it. I want to speak to each one slowly, because each one deserves to be held. Because, for too long, these signs have been misread as problems. They are not problems. They are proof. They are evidence that something of great significance is happening in you right now. And when you understand what they mean, I believe something in you is going to exhale in a way it has not exhaled in a very long time. The first sign: you have been tired in a way that sleep does not fix. Not the tiredness of a hard week, not the tiredness of a long season of work. This is something older, something that sits in the bones. You wake up after 8 hours and something in you is still heavy, and you have wondered, more than once, whether something is wrong with you. You have run through the explanations: iron levels, thyroid, stress, depression. You have searched the list and come back with no clear answer because the answer is not on a medical chart. What you are experiencing is not a deficiency of the body. It is the exhaustion of a soul that has been operating at a frequency that was never meant to be sustained. You have been carrying a weight that does not belong to you. You have been working with an effort that was designed for a different kind of person, a person who does not have what you have, a person who has to muscle their way through life because they do not have access to the current you are about to learn to trust. And the body knows. Before the mind will admit what the spirit has already understood, the body starts sending signals. The heaviness is one of them. The way your shoulders carry a weight that was not there 5 years ago. The way certain rooms drain you now, even when they used to energize you. The way the noise of ordinary life has become louder and more abrasive than it once was. This is not sensitivity. This is not weakness. This is a recalibration. Your nervous system is in the process of renegotiating what it will carry and what it will not. Your body is staging a quiet revolution on behalf of your calling. And the exhaustion you have been feeling is the friction of the old frequency resisting the new one. Think of it this way. When a frequency signal changes on a radio station, there is always static in the transition. The old signal and the new signal exist in the same space for a time, and the result is noise, interference, a kind of dissonance that can be physically uncomfortable. That tiredness is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are in the process of becoming something that does not yet fit the frame you have been living inside. The second sign, the environments and relationships that used to feel normal to you have started to feel draining in a way you cannot always explain. You find yourself in conversations that you would have enjoyed 5 years ago, and now you feel something in you retreating, not out of arrogance, not out of superiority, something deeper and quieter than that. A kind of low-level dissonance, like a note being played slightly off-key. You finish those conversations and you feel depleted rather than filled, and you go home and you wonder if something is wrong with you for feeling that way. You wonder if you have become difficult. You wonder if you have outgrown things you were not supposed to outgrow. What is actually happening is this. The frequency of who you are becoming is no longer compatible with every space you used to inhabit comfortably. When you grow spiritually, when you begin to move toward the purpose you were designed for, your resonance changes, and environments that were once aligned with your old frequency begin to feel misaligned with your new one. This is not rejection of people. This is not abandonment of community. This is the natural physics of spiritual growth. The caterpillar does not hate the chrysalis it leaves behind. It simply outgrows the container, and the soul in transition does not hate the spaces it can no longer breathe inside. It simply requires a larger space, a higher altitude. And you have not been wrong to notice this. You have been right. You have been more spiritually awake than you have known how to articulate. And the people who have misread your withdrawal as coldness, your quiet as distance, your boundaries as rejection, they have not seen what is actually happening. They have seen the shell that is being shed. They have not yet seen what is emerging. This is important to understand because one of the greatest traps for the person in transition is allowing the discomfort of other people with their growth to become the reason they stop growing. You do not owe anyone an explanation for the frequency you are becoming, and you are going to need to hear that again before this message is over. The third sign, your sleep has been interrupted. Not every night, not in the same way every time, but with a pattern that you have started to notice. You wake in the night, often between 2 and 4 in the morning, and the room is quiet, but something in you is not. Your mind moves with unusual clarity at that hour. Thoughts that feel larger than ordinary thoughts arrive. Questions you have not asked yourself during the day surface in the dark with a weight and a vividness that daytime noise cannot hold. And sometimes it is not thoughts at all. It is just a presence an awareness of something beyond the edges of your understanding, that is near, that is present, that is attentive. Many ancient traditions understood the significance of the night watch. The night was divided into watches in the old Hebrew reckoning, and the third watch, from approximately midnight to 3 in the morning, was considered the hour of divine visitation, the hour when the ordinary traffic of human consciousness grows quiet enough for the signal of heaven to break through. And when God moves in that hour, it is not to disturb you. It is because the daytime version of you has enough static to drown out what the night version of you can hear perfectly. Think of the disciples in the garden. While they slept, something of immense significance was happening in the spirit just a few feet away. They were not awake to it. But the disciples who came through the fire and the resurrection, stripped of their certainty and rebuilt from the ground up, became the most awake human beings in the history of civilization. The night is a refiner. The sleepless hours are a kind of preparation. If you have been waking in the night, if you have been visited by an unusual clarity or an unnamed awareness in the quiet hours, this is not something to be treated away. This is an invitation. This is the voice of your formation speaking to you in the only hour you will listen. The fourth sign. You have begun to know things before they happen, not in a dramatic way, not in a way you would announce at a gathering, but in quiet, undeniable flashes. A name rises in your mind, and then that person calls. A situation is unfolding, and before anyone says a word, something in you already knows the outcome. You make a decision based on an inner prompting that you cannot justify logically, and the decision turns out to be right in a way you could not have predicted. You have started to notice this. You have started to trust it, cautiously, testing it, keeping a quiet record. This is not coincidence. What you are experiencing is the activation of a spiritual faculty that has always been present in you, but has been suppressed by a culture that rewards the visible and dismisses the intuitive. Joseph saw it in dreams. Elijah heard it in the still, small voice after the fire and the wind had both passed him by. David sensed it in his body before he ever raised a weapon against Goliath. This faculty does not operate at full capacity in a striving mind. The same mind that is frantically calculating and planning and generating cannot also be still enough to receive the signal. The signal requires bandwidth. It requires the kind of quiet that only comes when you have stopped trying to manufacture your own outcomes through sheer force of effort. And this is one of the reasons God is saying to you in this season, do not look for work. Not because there is no work to do, but because the posture of desperate searching closes the very channel through which your guidance arrives. And you are going to need that channel completely open for what is coming. What you are about to receive in the next season of your life will require the full use of this faculty, the knowing that is already operating in you, the signal that is already being sent. The fifth sign. There is a hunger in you that ordinary life cannot satisfy. You have tried. You have tried achievements. You have tried relationships. You have tried comfort and entertainment and the quiet pleasures of a life that looks, from the outside, like it should be enough. And you have been grateful for what you have. You are not ungrateful. But beneath the gratitude, beneath the ordinary contentment, there is something that will not quiet. A pull towards something you cannot fully name. A sense that you were made for more, not in the self-aggrandizing way of someone who thinks they are better than others, but in the aching, specific way of a person who knows that they have not yet stepped into the thing they were designed to carry. This is not ambition. Ambition can be satisfied with the right achievement. This is calling, and calling cannot be satisfied with anything that is not itself. It will keep surfacing. It will keep tapping on the walls of your ordinary life until you open the door. The people who have silenced it have not found peace. They have found numbness. And there is a difference between peace and numbness that is difficult to explain, but impossible to miss once you know it. Peace is an active, quiet, a settled presence, a stillness that is full rather than empty. Numbness is the absence of the ache without the presence of the answer. You, chosen one, have been wise enough to stay awake enough to feel the hunger, because the hunger is the compass. Those 5 signs form a portrait that is unmistakable once you have seen it, a portrait of a soul in active formation. And there is something that may be sitting underneath all 5 of those signs without you having named it yet. There is, in the life of a person moving toward a significant season of provision, a particular kind of loneliness that arrives. Not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of feeling that no one around you is inside what is happening to you, that you are carrying something you cannot put down and cannot fully explain, that the people who love you can see that something is different but cannot see what it is. This loneliness is not a flaw in your community. It is the necessary condition of a formation that is specific to you. The preparation that God is doing in this season is being done in the particular soil of your particular life. No one else can stand in your spot. No one else can walk your preparation, which means no one else can fully understand it from the inside. And the loneliness is the evidence of that specificity. You are not lonely because your calling is not real. You are lonely because your calling is so precisely yours that only the one who gave it to you can fully comprehend the dimensions of what is being built inside you. And here is what I want to tell you about that loneliness. It is temporary in the specific way that means what you are being prepared for will bring you into connection with people who carry the same frequency you are moving toward. The eagle does not fly with sparrows, not because the eagle is better than the sparrow, but because the altitude the eagle inhabits is not accessible to the sparrow. When you rise to the height this season is preparing you for, you will find that there are others who have been rising toward the same altitude through different thermals. And when you find each other at height, the connection will be unlike any connection you have had before. It will be built on the shared experience of the formation, not on the shared comfort of the familiar. That is worth holding, because the isolation of this season is not the end of the story. It is the middle of it, and the middle of a formation story always feels the worst, right before the turning point. The chrysalis is the darkest hour of the butterfly. The pit is the lowest point of Joseph. The 3 days are the most silent chapter of the resurrection narrative. You are in the middle of a story that has not yet shown you its ending, but the God who sees forward, the God who named himself Jireh, he has already seen the ending, and he is not worried. Before we go into the ancient evidence, I want to say one more thing about the 5 signs. There is a tendency when we hear a list like this to do one of 2 things. Either we embrace every single sign as confirmation of our specialness, which can slide into a kind of spiritual inflation, or we dismiss them all as too generic, too applicable to any person going through any difficult season, which disconnects us from real discernment. What I am asking you to do instead is to sit with the signs that specifically named something you have not had words for, and to hold those ones. Perhaps 2 of them landed with a weight that the others did not. Perhaps one of them described something so precisely that your breath changed when you heard it. Those are the ones that matter for you right now. Those are the fingerprints of a message that was made for your moment. Those 5 signs are the evidence that you are standing at the threshold. And now I want to give you the name of the God who is about to meet you on the other side of it. In the Hebrew scriptures, God revealed himself to Abraham at the mountain of Moriah with a name that had never been spoken before, Jehovah-Jireh. It is often translated as God will provide. But that translation is thin. It carries the meaning but not the fullness of it, because Jireh does not simply mean to provide. The Hebrew word ra'ah from which Jireh is drawn, means to see forward, to see what is coming before it arrives. So when God named himself Jehovah-Jireh, he was not saying, "I will give you what you ask for." He was saying something more extraordinary. He was saying, "I have already seen what you need before you knew you would need it. I have already placed the answer at the intersection you have not yet reached." The provision was not created in response to the need. The provision was created before the need existed, and the need was permitted so that the provision could be revealed. This is the architecture of divine economy that most people have never been taught. We are taught to work, to earn, to generate, to produce, to create the thing we need through our own effort. And that framework is not entirely false, but it is incomplete. It is the framework for a person who does not have access to Jireh. It is the framework of the one who has not yet discovered that the provision was pre-positioned, that the mountain already held the ram before Abraham raised the knife, that the well of water was already in the desert before the eyes of Hagar were opened to see it, that the manna was already forming in the morning dew before Israel woke to hunger. The need did not create the provision. The provision was created first. This is what it means when God says, "Do not look for work." This is not the voice of laziness. This is the voice of Jireh, the God who sees forward, the God who has already placed what you need at the location your path is about to cross. His instruction to you is to stop searching with the frantic energy of someone who does not know if the provision exists, to stop burning yourself out looking for what he has already positioned, to align yourself with the current, to spread your wings and trust the thermal, to walk in the direction of your calling, not with the desperation of someone who must manufacture every resource, but with the settled authority of someone who knows that the God who called them has already prepared what the calling requires. The provision-aligned life is not a passive life. The eagle on the thermal is not passive. It is intensely engaged. Its wings are spread fully, its feathers adjusted with precision, its eyes scanning the landscape with focus. It is fully present and fully active. The difference is where the energy is being expended. The flapping bird expends energy, generating its own lift. The eagle expends energy working with the lift that already exists. Both are working, but only one of them is exhausted, and only one of them reaches the height. There is something I want to offer to those for whom what we have just covered feels like more than inspiration. Something that has been studied in the field of neuroscience that speaks directly to the kind of cognitive shift that happens when a person moves from striving to receiving, from manufacturing to trusting. There is a neurologist in New York City who spent decades studying exactly what happens in the brain during that kind of shift. What changes at the level of neural synchronization when both hemispheres of the brain begin to work together rather than in the fragmented, one-sided way that striving produces? He built a specific 8-minute auditory sequence to support exactly that transition. A targeted tool built on research that was recognized with the Nobel Prize in 1981. For those who feel that what is being said here is activating something that needs a neurological ground, something in the brain, to match what is already shifting in the spirit. The information is waiting in the link, in the description, and in the pinned comment below this message. Look at it only if your spirit confirms it is for you. The ancient evidence is coming. What I am about to walk you through in the next part of this message is the pattern that runs through centuries of sacred text, the thread that connects Solomon to Elijah to Joseph. The proof that this season of provision without striving is not a new theology. It is the oldest pattern in the sacred record, and when you see it through the eyes of what we have just established together, something is going to shift in your understanding that has been waiting for exactly this. If something in you has already shifted while you have been listening, If something has settled or opened or turned toward the light in a way it has not done in a long time, then type the word Amen. Let your Amen be your agreement with the season. Let it be your declaration that so be it. This is the season of Jireh. This is the season of the thermal. This is the season in which richness that was prepared before your need was born is about to find you walking in the direction of your calling. Type Amen and let it be sealed. The evidence is coming. The ancient pattern is about to be shown to you in a way that will change how you understand not just your finances, but your identity, your calling, and the nature of the God who named himself the one who sees forward. Stay with this, because what is coming in the next part is the reason this message existed before you arrived. There is something worth pausing on in the moment before we proceed. You came to this message with a specific history. Your history is not identical to anyone else who is listening. The particular shape of your formation season, the specific weight of what you have been carrying, the exact texture of the hunger that will not quiet, these are yours. They are the fingerprints of a purpose that was designed specifically for the person you are. And the God who sees forward does not work from a template. He works from the specific. He does not give generic provision to generic people. He gives specific provision to specific people at specific times in specific ways that match the specific shape of what was prepared. What that means in practice is this. The provision that is coming toward you is not the same provision that is coming toward anyone else. It is not the same in its size, because your calling is a different size than anyone else's calling. It is not the same in its form, because your gifts require a different kind of platform than anyone else's gifts require. It is not the same in its timing, because your formation took the specific amount of time that your calling required, and not a single day of it was wasted or arbitrary. The provision was designed to arrive precisely when the formation was complete enough to receive it with the right quality of hands, open hands, prepared hands. Hands that have released the grip of striving and learned the posture of inheritance. You may have looked at other people's seasons and compared them to yours. This is one of the most common sources of unnecessary suffering in the formation season. You see someone else's breakthrough arrive before yours. You see someone with what appears to be less preparation step into a platform that seems larger than what you have been offered. And you wonder whether the system is fair, whether the God who sees forward is seeing you with the same clarity he is seeing them, whether there is something about your specific story that places you outside the pattern of provision that everyone else seems to be walking into. I want to speak to that, wondering directly. The comparison is a distortion. It is not a window into reality. It is a funhouse mirror. You are seeing their current chapter without seeing their full formation. You are seeing their platform without seeing their pit. You are seeing their harvest without seeing their wilderness. Every person whose breakthrough appears before yours has a history you cannot fully see. And every delay in your timeline has a purpose you cannot yet fully measure. The God who sees forward is not making a mistake in the management of your season. He is not confused about your timeline. He is not unaware of the gap between your desire and your current circumstances. He designed the gap, not to punish you, not to test your endurance as a kind of divine obstacle course, but because the specific dimensions of your calling require a specific depth of formation that cannot be manufactured in less time than it takes. You cannot rush a diamond. The pressure must be sustained for the transformation to be complete. And the God who sees your diamond in its finished state is the same God who is managing the pressure that is producing it. The comparison will not serve you. Only the trust will serve you. The trust that your timeline is in the hands of the one who designed the path. There is also this. The provision of the next season is going to require something of you that you did not have at the beginning of the formation. It is going to require a specific quality of character that can only be built in the specific circumstances you have been through. The humility that comes from having been through the pit, the compassion that comes from having known the wilderness, the patience that comes from having waited longer than felt fair, the unshakable conviction that comes from having trusted the thermal through a long season when you could not feel it beneath you. These qualities, built in the hidden place, are not extras. They are the foundation, and the provision of the next season will be built on them in ways that will only become clear in retrospect. The people who receive what you are about to receive, the people who will be affected by what you are about to carry into the world, they need the version of you that the formation produced, not the version that would have arrived 5 years ago or 10 years ago or at any other point in your timeline. The version that arrived now, after all of it, with all of it embedded in your character, with the depth that only this specific journey could have produced. This is why the timing is what it is. This is why the preparation took as long as it took. The world needed this version of you, and this version of you could only have been produced by this exact path. Trust the path, not as a spiritual cliché, as a settled knowing that this message has spent considerable time establishing. The ancient witnesses established it. Solomon could not have received the wealth before the wisdom was present to steward it. Elijah could not have been fed by the ravens before he was sent to the ravine. Joseph could not have managed the food supply of Egypt before the prison had taught him the specific qualities of administration and trust and long-sightedness that the court of Pharaoh required. The path was not random. The path was precise, and yours is the same. I want to linger a moment longer in the territory of the 5 signs, because I know that some of you, in the privacy of your own listening, have been having a conversation with yourself about whether these signs actually apply to you, whether they are specific enough to be real or general enough to apply to anyone, and I want to address that internal conversation directly. The signs I named are specific. They are not a horoscope that applies to every person who reads it. The tiredness that does not lift with sleep is a distinct experience from ordinary fatigue. The draining of previously comfortable environments is a distinct experience from general introversion or social anxiety. The night waking with unusual clarity is a distinct experience from insomnia caused by stress or worry. The knowing before things happen is a distinct experience from ordinary pattern recognition or educated guessing. The hunger that ordinary life cannot satisfy is a distinct experience from ambition or restlessness. These signs are specific to a season of spiritual formation. They are not present in everyone at all times. They are present in the chosen one who is in active preparation for a season of significant provision and calling. And the fact that you recognized them, the fact that you felt something move when you heard each one named, is itself a form of the 4th sign. It is the knowing, the recognition that operates at a level beneath the analytical mind and beneath the social layer and beneath the carefully maintained defenses that keep ordinary life feeling manageable. The part of you that recognized the signs is the part that knows the truth about your own season, and I want to honor that part of you specifically, because that part has been consistently right throughout the entirety of your formation, even when the analytical mind was offering contradictory evidence. That part has been the one that kept the hunger alive when the circumstances were most discouraging. That part has been the one that held the knowing when the evidence was thinnest. That part is the seat of the spiritual faculty that I described in the 4th sign, and it has been preparing you for this conversation, for this moment, for the season that this message is declaring over your life. I want to also say something about what happens after a message like this one, because the moment it ends, ordinary life will assert itself. The to-do list will reassert itself. The circumstances will not have changed. The bills will still be due. The business will still be where it was. The relationship situations will still be what they were. And the power of what was said can fade very quickly in the face of that reassertion. This is not a failure of the message or of your receptivity to it. It is the natural pressure that all transformation encounters. The old operating mode fights for the territory that the new one is claiming. The way you hold what was given to you in this message is not by feeling it intensely in this moment. Feelings are not reliable containers for lasting change. The way you hold it is by building the daily practices into the structure of your ordinary days. The receiving practice takes 2 to 3 minutes in the morning. The evidence practice takes 60 seconds. The surrender test is a 3-day experiment you can begin in any area where you have been striving without breakthrough. These are the practical containers for the spiritual shift. And the spiritual shift, held in these practical containers and renewed daily, is what produces the lasting change in operating mode that this season is building. The message does not have to live in the intensity of this moment in order to change your life. It has to live in the daily structure of your morning before the world asserts itself. 10 minutes. Receiving practice. Evidence practice. 3 knowings reviewed. That is what transforms a powerful message into a season-changing practice. That is what takes the eagle off the ground, not the intensity of the moment of hearing, the daily discipline of returning to the posture until it becomes the default. And the default, once established, is the most powerful thing in your life, because the default is what operates when you are not consciously choosing. The default is what shows up in the moments when the circumstances are most challenging, when the evidence is most discouraging, when the striving pull is strongest. A default of alignment means that even in those moments, even when the choice is not being consciously made, the posture holds, the hands stay open, the direction stays toward the calling, the trust in the thermal stays operative even when the wing-beat temptation is loudest. That is the fruit of the daily practice, and that fruit is coming in the days ahead, in the weeks and months ahead. As the practice builds the default that the season is calling for, the ancient evidence does not ask you to take anything on faith that you cannot also take on reason. The stories we are about to walk through together are not just inspiring, they are structurally consistent. They follow a pattern so precise, so repeatable, so unmistakable when you see it through the lens of what we have just established, that it cannot be dismissed as coincidence. This pattern runs through cultures and centuries and temperaments and circumstances with a fidelity that suggests it is not accidental. It suggests it is a law, not a motivational law, a spiritual law. The law of pre-positioned provision, the law of Jehovah-Jireh in action. And the first witness to this law, the one whose life demonstrates it in perhaps the most dramatic way in the entire wisdom literature of the ancient world, is a man who began his reign with nothing more than a single request, not a request for wealth, not a request for power, not even a request for long life. Solomon, the son of David, was given the opportunity to ask God for anything at all. And what he asked for was the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, to govern wisely, to discern what was true from what was false. He asked for wisdom. And what happened next is the part that most sermons skip over, because what happened next is uncomfortable for those who want to keep wealth and spirituality in separate rooms. God was so moved by the nature of the request of Solomon, by the fact that this young man asked for something that would benefit others rather than something that would only benefit himself, that he said something that altered the architecture of how provision flows to the aligned. God said, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches, or the life of your enemies, but have asked for discernment to understand justice, I will do what you have asked, and I will also give you what you did not ask, riches and honor, such as no king has had before you. This is the first witness. And notice what Solomon did not do. He did not develop a financial strategy before God spoke. He did not create a 5-year plan for the expansion of his kingdom. He did not research market conditions in the ancient world or calculate the return on investment of various agricultural initiatives. He aligned himself with wisdom. He positioned himself at the frequency of discernment, and the provision, the richness, the honor, arrived not as a reward for good financial management, but as the natural consequence of alignment. Because the one who carries wisdom carries the seed of provision inside the wisdom itself. You cannot fully have one without eventually experiencing the other. Wisdom knows where the provision is. Wisdom understands the timing of release. Wisdom can distinguish between a door that is opening and a wall that simply looks like a door. And Solomon did not work for the wealth that God gave him. He worked from a position of wisdom, and the wealth was the product of the position. There is a critical difference between working for something and working from something. The person who works for provision is always one step behind it, always chasing what they have not yet caught. The person who works from a position of alignment is always accompanied by the provision that belongs to the position. Solomon did not chase the wealth. The wealth came to him because of what he was, and what he was the direct result of what he had asked to become. This is the pattern, the first layer of the ancient evidence, and it establishes something foundational that we need to carry into the second witness. The foundation is this: what you become in the alignment is more significant than what you acquire in the striving. The becoming opens the door through which the provision walks. The striving keeps the door perpetually just out of reach. Now, the first witness was a king, and some of you are thinking, that is all well and good for a monarch. But what about the ordinary person? What about the person who is not a king, not a public figure, not someone with the resources and the platform that power brings? What about the person who is simply living their life, doing their best, wondering if this God who sees forward also sees them in the ordinary geography of their ordinary days? The answer is Elijah. Elijah was not a king. Elijah was a prophet, which in the ancient world meant something close to what we would call a voice. A person who heard from God and spoke what they heard, often to people who did not want to hear it. And there came a season in the life of Elijah when the land was under a drought that he himself had proclaimed by the word of the Lord. The water sources had dried up. The food supplies were failing. The economy of an entire nation was collapsing under the weight of a judgment that had been spoken from the mouth of this one man. And God did not remove Elijah from the drought. He did not move Elijah to a nation that was not suffering. He gave Elijah a specific instruction: go to the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan, hide there, and I have commanded ravens to supply you with food there. So Elijah went. He hid in the ravine, and the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook in the middle of a national famine, in the middle of a drought he himself had called. In a ravine where no human being knew where he was and no human being was positioned to help him, God had commanded ravens, scavenger birds, the birds that most people would not trust to carry a message, let alone a meal, to supply a prophet with provision in a wilderness that had no natural provision. And what did Elijah do to make this happen? Nothing that you would recognize as provision seeking. He obeyed the instruction to go. He positioned himself in the place God directed, and then he waited. He did not go looking for the ravens. He did not devise a backup plan in case the ravens did not show up. He did not strategize an alternative route to provision. He positioned himself in obedience, and the provision came to him, carried by the very creatures that the world would have dismissed as unsuitable couriers. This is the second witness. The provision was pre-positioned. The ravens were already commanded before Elijah arrived at the ravine. The bread and meat already had an assigned delivery route. The only task of Elijah's task was to show up where he was told to show up. And I want you to feel the weight of this for a moment. Because the ravens in your season may not look like what you expect provision to look like. The source through which your richness arrives may not be the source you have been looking toward. It may be the unexpected contact. It may be the conversation you were not planning on having. It may be the door that opens in the wall you were not even looking at. It may be the opportunity that arrives through a channel that your logic would have dismissed as unlikely or beneath the dignity of what you were hoping for. The ravens were scavenger birds. They were not noble creatures. They were not what a prophet might have preferred as his personal provision service. But they were commanded, and they came, and they were faithful. And they brought exactly what was needed, exactly when it was needed, in a place where nothing natural could have supplied it. Your ravens are already commanded. The provision for this season of your life is already in motion. Your assignment, like Elijah in the ravine, is to position yourself where God directed you to be and to resist the temptation to go looking for alternative routes, because the primary route does not match your expectations. There is something else I want to say about the Elijah story that is often missed in the retelling. After the ravens came to the ravine, the brook eventually dried up, and when it did, God gave Elijah another instruction: go to Zarephath. There is a widow there who will provide for you. And Elijah went. He arrived in Zarephath to find a widow who was down to her last handful of flour and her last few drops of oil, preparing what she believed would be the final meal for herself and her son before they starved to death. And yet she fed Elijah first, at his request. And from that day forward, the jar of flour was not empty, and the jug of oil did not run dry, not abundantly, not lavishly, but sufficiently, continuously, without exhaustion. Two different provision sources, ravens and a widow, both unexpected, both from outside the planning of Elijah or calculation, both arriving at the precise moment the previous source had served its purpose. This is the pattern of pre-positioned provision. It does not come from one place. It does not lock you into a single source. It moves, it shifts, it finds you wherever the instruction of God has placed you. And when one stream dries up, as streams sometimes do in the divine economy, another stream has already been positioned at the next coordinate on your path. The God who commanded the ravens did not forget about the drought. He was already addressing it before the brook was dry. Now the third witness, and this one may be the most important for those of you who have been in a long season of waiting, a season that has felt not just like preparation but like punishment. The third witness is Joseph. Joseph was betrayed by the people who should have protected him, sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused by the wife of his employer, imprisoned without trial, forgotten by the very person he had helped, who promised to speak on his behalf and did not. By every measure of human fairness, Joseph had every right to be bitter, every right to be broken, every right to have abandoned any trust in the idea that his life was moving toward anything other than catastrophe. And instead, in every single environment he was placed in, Joseph thrived. Not because the environment was good, not because the people around him were trustworthy, but because something that operated at a level beneath the visible circumstances was positioning him layer by layer for something that no human strategy could have architected. The pit was not the end. The pit was the preparation. The prison was not the punishment. The prison was the education. The false accusation was not the destruction. The false accusation was the positioning. Because without the prison, Joseph never meets the cupbearer who eventually remembers him when Pharaoh needs a dream interpreted. Without the dream interpretation, Joseph is never brought before Pharaoh. Without Pharaoh, Joseph is never made second in command over all of Egypt. Without Egypt, there is no grain storage during the years of abundance. Without the grain storage, there is no provision during the years of famine. Without the provision, there is no reconciliation with his brothers. Without the reconciliation, there is no family restoration. And without the family restoration, there is no fulfillment of the dream that God gave Joseph as a teenager, a dream that was prepositioned before the betrayal even began. Every step that looked like destruction was a step in the direction of the provision that had already been prepared. Every season that appeared to be punishment was a season of preparation. And Joseph, who could see neither the map nor the destination, walked it in faithfulness that was not passive, faithfulness that was intensely active and engaged and present, but faithfulness that came from a position of trust rather than a position of striving. He did not engineer his own rescue from the prison. He was faithful in the prison. And the rescue came from outside the prison, from a direction he could not have predicted at the time that the prepositioned provision required. I want to speak directly to those of you who are in the prison right now, not a literal prison, but the prison of a season that has lasted longer than you thought it would. The prison of circumstances that have not shifted despite your prayers and your faithfulness. The prison of watching people around you move forward while you seem to remain in place. The prison of a calling that burns inside you but has not yet found its public expression. If you are in that prison, I want to tell you something that Joseph could not have heard while he was in his. The prison is not the final chapter. The prison is the education. Everything that the palace will require, everything that the next season demands of your character and your capacity and your compassion is being built inside the very walls that feel like they are keeping you from your destiny. And the day will come, as surely as it came for Joseph, when a word spoken in the right room, by the right person, at the right moment, will open a door that no human hand could have opened, and you will step from the prison into the palace so quickly that your head will spin. And when you look back at the path, you will see, with sudden and breathtaking clarity, that every single step of the way was necessary, that nothing was wasted, that the God who sees forward had already seen the palace when you were still in the pit. Now look at the pattern across all three witnesses: a king, a prophet in a wilderness, a prisoner in a foreign country. Three completely different human beings in three completely different circumstances. And across all three, the same architecture. The provision was pre-positioned before the need arose. The alignment was the path to the provision, not the striving. The instruction from God was positioning, not manufacturing. Ask for wisdom instead of wealth. Go to the ravine. Stay faithful in the pit. And in every case, the richness that God had assigned to each of these lives arrived not as a reward for the quality of their human effort, but as the natural consequence of the position they occupied. And there is a word in the New Testament Greek that carries the fullness of what all three of these stories are pointing toward. The word is kleronomia. It is translated in English as inheritance. But inheritance in the modern English sense carries a connotation of waiting for someone to die and then receiving what they left behind. Kleronomia is much richer than that. It means that which has been allotted, assigned, designated, set apart. It carries the sense of a portion that was determined beforehand, before you were born, before the circumstances of your life were set in motion, before the pit and the prison and the wilderness. A portion that has your name on it and waits for you at the coordinates your path is moving toward. The richness of this season is not earned provision. It is kleronomia. It is the portion that was designated for your name before you had the capacity to earn anything. And the tragedy of a striving life is not simply that striving is exhausting. It is that striving treats an inheritance as if it were a wage. It treats what was assigned as if it must be earned, and in doing so, it introduces a form of anxiety into the equation that was never meant to be there. Because inheritance does not depend on your performance. Inheritance depends on your relationship to the one who established it. And your relationship to the Father who prepositioned your provision is not a performance relationship. It is a lineage relationship. You did not earn your way into the family. You were born into it, and the inheritance belongs to you by virtue of the birth, not by virtue of the labor. This is the word that God is speaking into your season right now. The richness that is coming is not coming because you finally worked hard enough, or prayed long enough, or believed with sufficient intensity. It is coming because the Father, who established your kleronomia before the foundation of your story, has seen that you are at the coordinates where the inheritance is positioned. And he is saying to you, in the clearest terms he can use, stop looking for work. Stop treating your inheritance as if it were a wage. Stop exhausting yourself in the economy of striving when you were designed for the economy of inheritance. The provision is not something you are building. It is something you are approaching. And the path toward it is not effort. The path toward it is alignment. Before this message continues, I want to pause here for a moment, not to delay the teaching, but to honor what we have just covered. You have received 3 ancient witnesses to the law of prepositioned provision: Solomon, Elijah, Joseph, and I want to honor the weight of that, because what we have established together is not small. We have established that the pattern of your life, the formation you have been through, the positioning that has been happening in the seasons that felt like everything was going wrong, this pattern has precedent. It has ancient precedent. It has been walked by some of the most significant human beings in the history of the Spirit, and they all arrived at the same truth. The provision was already there. It was waiting, and the waiting was not passive. The waiting was the most productive thing they could have done. If something has settled in your spirit while you have been listening to this evidence, if the weight of the ancient witnesses has met something in you that recognizes it as true, then press the like button gently, not for any other reason, but because something in you just agreed, and agreement deserves to be expressed. Let that gentle press be your amen without words. Let it be your confirmation that this message is reaching the right person at the right time. And then breathe once, just once, fully. Let what we have covered settle into your body before we move forward. Because what comes next is where this teaching begins to land in the specific landscape of your life. There are 3 areas where God is repositioning your provision right now. 3 areas that I am going to address with the precision this season requires. And the third one is the one you have probably been most worried about. The practical reality of what your life looks like tomorrow and the day after. Stay with this. What is coming next is the part of this message that will change not just how you think, but what you see when you look at your own circumstances. There is something more I want to say about the formation pattern that runs through all 3 ancient witnesses, something that is easy to miss when we examine the stories individually. When you look at all 3 together, a specific characteristic emerges that is not immediately obvious, but becomes unmistakable once you see it. In all 3 cases, the transition from formation to provision was marked not by the person striving harder, but by the person receiving a specific instruction, a direction, an assignment. Solomon received the instruction to ask for wisdom. It came in a dream. Elijah received the instruction to go to the ravine. It came as a word from God in the morning. Joseph received the interpretation of the dream of Pharaoh and the instruction to administer the grain storage. It came through the gift that had been refined in the prison, presented at the exact moment the throne needed it. In all three cases, the transition was not initiated by the human being. It was initiated by the divine voice. And the role of the human being was to respond to the instruction with the same faithfulness that the formation had been building all along. This is critical for your season, because you may be waiting for something to change in the circumstances before you feel you have received the instruction. You may be waiting for an obvious sign, a clear open door, a dramatic shift in the visible landscape of your life. But the instruction often comes before the circumstances change. Solomon received the instruction, and then the circumstances of his kingdom shifted. Elijah received the instruction and walked into a ravine that looked like it had nothing to offer before the ravens showed up. Joseph received the instruction, or in his case, the gift of interpretation, and then the circumstances of the prison changed. The instruction precedes the provision. The instruction requires the faith of moving before the evidence is present. And the instruction comes in specific ways to the people who are in formation. It comes in the quiet hours. It comes in the intuitive flashes, that fourth sign I named, the knowing before things happen. It comes in the persistent pull toward a specific direction that cannot be fully justified by logic, but cannot be fully dismissed by reason. It comes in the open door that is slightly off the main path, the one you almost missed because you were focused on the door you had been pushing. It comes in the unexpected contact, the conversation you were not planning to have, the offer that arrives from a source you had not been seeking. The instruction is already moving toward you. It may have already arrived in a form you have not fully recognized yet. Let me ask you to hold this in the next 24 hours. Hold the question, what is the instruction? What is the specific directional word that is being spoken to me right now in this season? Not the word about the provision, but the word about the positioning. Where am I being sent? What am I being given to steward? What door is quietly opening that I have been so focused on the door I have been pushing that I almost missed? Because the instruction is the threshold. And on the other side of the threshold, the provision is already standing. It does not need you to build toward it. It needs you to walk through the door it has placed in front of you. And the God who sees forward has already seen you walking through it. He has already seen the first chapter of the season that opens behind that door. He is not worried about whether you will recognize the instruction when it comes. He is not worried about whether you will have the courage to respond to it. He has seen you already responding. And he knows, as he has always known about the chosen ones he has called, that when the moment arrives, the formation will express itself in exactly the faithfulness that the moment requires. This is also worth considering. The size of the provision in the next season is not unrelated to the depth of the formation in the current one. This is not a punishment framework. It is not saying that you must suffer more to earn more. It is saying something structural about the relationship between capacity and provision. The provision of the next season cannot exceed the capacity of the vessel to receive and steward it. A large provision placed in an underprepared vessel does not bless the vessel. It overwhelms it. It distorts it. It becomes a burden rather than a blessing. And so the formation builds the capacity first. And the capacity that has been built in you through this season is significant. I can say that with confidence, not because I know the specifics of your history, but because the length of the formation is one of the indicators of the scale of the provision that is coming. If you have been in a long formation season, it is not because you did something wrong that extended the season. It is because the provision that was prepared for your name required a vessel of corresponding depth, and the depth takes the time that it takes. The longer the formation, the larger the calling. The harder the preparation, the more significant the platform. I want you to hold that, because it reframes the experience of the formation in a way that is not just comforting but logical. The formation is not random in its duration, it is proportional to what it is producing. And the God who sees forward, who already knows the full scope of what your provision will require and what your calling will carry, has managed the duration of your preparation with the same precision he used when he managed the grain storage in Egypt. Not a day too short, not a day too long, exactly the duration required for the vessel to be ready for the inheritance. You are ready, not in the sense that everything is perfect, not in the sense that the doubts are gone and the fears are resolved and the circumstances have shifted. Ready in the sense that the formation has produced the qualities that the next season requires. And the next season is now. The thermal is rising. The provision is in motion. The instruction is coming. And the chosen one who was prepared for this moment is you, exactly as you are, right now, in this season, with this history, with this hunger, with this calling that has never gone quiet, no matter how long the silence has lasted. You are ready. There are 3 areas where God is repositioning the provision in the lives of the chosen ones in this season. And I want to take each one seriously, because each one deserves more than a surface treatment. The first area is relationships, the second is purpose, and the third is practical provision, the area of finances and daily supply. The area that keeps most people in striving mode long after the spirit has received the word to stop. We are going to start with relationships, because the repositioning of relationships is often the most disorienting part of a season of alignment. It is also the part that is least often addressed with honesty in spiritual content. People would rather be told that God is bringing them into better relationships than be told the truth, which is that God is first going to remove some relationships that have been occupying space that he needs for what is coming next. For those of you who are entering this season of provision, let me name something specifically. There are likely people in your life right now whose presence in your story has reached the end of its chapter, not because they are bad people, not because the relationship was a mistake, not because you failed in some way to maintain it, but because the trajectory of your calling and the trajectory of their life are no longer running in the same direction. And the intersection that served you both for a season is diverging. And what you have been feeling in those relationships, the dissonance I mentioned when I named the second sign, is the evidence of that divergence. For those entering this season, the people you thought would be here forever will sometimes exit. It will hurt. You will question whether you pushed them away, whether you were too much, whether you changed in ways that made you unlovable. You will replay the history of the relationship looking for the moment you went wrong. There was no moment. There was a divergence. And divergence is not failure. Divergence is the natural geometry of 2 lives moving in different directions. Here is what not to do during this repositioning. Do not go after them. Do not try to hold what is already leaving. Do not force what the Father has allowed to release. The instinct to hold on is understandable. The instinct comes from love, and love is good. But there is a kind of holding on that is not love. It is fear dressed in the language of love. It is the fear that if this person leaves, you will be left with nothing. That the provision they represented, the comfort, the companionship, the validation, cannot be replaced. And that fear is the voice of the striving mode, not the voice of alignment. Trust this. Just when you think you are alone, people who understand your language will appear. When the people who belong to the previous frequency of your life have moved on, The people who belong to the frequency you are moving toward are already being positioned toward you. They are being brought along their own paths to the same intersection yours is heading toward. And when you meet them, you will know the meeting. There will be a recognition that operates at a level beneath the social layer, a recognition that says, I have been waiting for this conversation. I have been waiting for this person, without knowing that was what I was doing. Relationship repositioning is not loss. It is preparation for a different kind of connection, a connection built not on the comfort of the familiar, but on the resonance of the called. You were not made for comfort relationships. You were made for covenant connections. And covenant connections require that the clearing has happened, that the space has been made, that the old frequency has been released, so that the new frequency can find its home in you. The second area of repositioning is purpose. And this is where I want to introduce something that may sound counterintuitive, given everything we have covered so far. Purpose is repositioning itself in this season not toward less, but toward more, toward something larger than what you have been aiming at. And that larger something may not look like what you have been expecting purpose to look like. There is a pattern I have observed in the lives of chosen ones who are approaching their season of provision. In the years immediately preceding the breakthrough, many of them describe a period of what I can only call purposelessness. A period when the thing they thought they were supposed to be doing no longer feels like enough, but the thing they are supposed to be doing next has not yet become clear. They are standing between two shores, the shore they left behind and the shore they cannot yet see. And that in-between space is terrifying because the culture we live in does not honor the in-between. The culture tells us that purposelessness is failure, that if you do not know what you are supposed to be doing, you must not be spiritual enough, ambitious enough, clear enough. But every significant figure in the sacred record went through an in-between season. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness between the palace and the burning bush. David spent years anointed but not yet crowned, playing his harp for a king who was trying to kill him. Esther spent years hidden in a palace before the moment arrived when everything she had been given was going to be required in a single critical act of courage. The in-between is not purposelessness. The in-between is where the purpose gets clarified to the depth required for what the next season demands. And here is what God is doing in the purpose dimension of this repositioning. He is not just expanding what you do, He is deepening who you are while you do it. The richness of the next season is not merely financial richness. It is the richness of operating from the fullness of your calling rather than from a fraction of it. It is the richness of waking up with a sense of alignment so complete that the work you do flows from who you are rather than being what you do to get what you need. That kind of richness cannot be given to someone who is not yet ready to carry it with the right kind of humility. And the in-between season is the season of preparation that produces the right kind of humility, not the humility of self-doubt. The humility of someone who knows that what they carry is not from themselves and who, because of that knowing, can carry it without being destroyed by it. For those entering this season of purpose repositioning, your 3 areas of purpose are being reorganized simultaneously. Your calling is being clarified, the timing of its public expression is being set, and the specific people you are meant to serve, the people who need what you specifically carry, are being positioned to encounter what you are about to release. All 3 of these repositionings are happening at the same time. And the reason the in-between feels so disorienting is that you are in the middle of a renovation so comprehensive that it is difficult to live in the building while the work is being done. Here is what to trust. You will not miss your moment. The God who sees forward, Jehovah-Jireh, has already seen the moment when your purpose will find its fullest expression. He is not moving you toward a door that will close before you reach it. He is not building you for a season that will pass before you arrive. The preparation is proportional to the purpose. The longer the preparation, the larger the platform. And the larger the platform, the more critical it was that the preparation be complete before the platform appeared. Now, the third area. And this is the one that I suspect has been sitting in the back of your mind since the beginning of this message. The practical area, the money area, the bills and the mortgage and the tuition and the groceries and the business that has not reached the level you need it to reach, and the salary that has not been what it needs to be, and the savings that have not grown the way you planned. The very practical, very tangible, very real experience of not having enough, or of having just enough but never more than that, or of watching provision that was almost here disappear before it arrived. I am not going to spiritualize this away. I am not going to tell you that money does not matter and to focus on the eternal things. Money matters in the practical life you are living. The bills are real. The needs are real. The weight of financial uncertainty is one of the heaviest weights a human being can carry. I know that. And the God who created the system of practical provision, the God who designed the ravens and the oil of the widow and the grain storage in Egypt, that God knows it too. And here is what I want to say with as much directness as I can. The pattern we have established through the ancient witnesses is not a pattern that only applies to spiritual matters. It is a pattern that applies to the practical, tangible, daily reality of financial provision. The ram in the thicket was a physical animal. The bread and meat that the ravens carried was actual food. The grain that filled the storehouses of Egypt was real grain that fed real families through a real famine. The God who sees forward does not operate only in the spiritual dimension. He operates in the physical dimension of your daily life. And the provision he has pre-positioned for your season is not metaphorical provision. It is practical, tangible, real provision. But here is the condition that runs through all three ancient witnesses. The condition is not performance. It is not spiritual effort or the quality of your faith or the volume of your prayer. The condition is positioning. Solomon positioned himself in wisdom. Elijah positioned himself in the ravine. Joseph positioned himself in faithfulness in every environment. And the provision came to each of them in direct response to the positioning, not as a reward for the performance. As the natural consequence of the location, this means that what you are being asked to do in this season of practical repositioning is not to work harder. It is to position yourself differently, to release the striving that has been keeping you in the same cycle, to stop burning energy in the direction of what your hands can generate and redirect that energy toward alignment, toward the faithful presence in the place God has called you to inhabit, toward the quality of inner quiet that keeps the channel of provision open. And I want to address something specific. There is an obstacle that sits between the teaching of this message and the practical reality of your life. And it is the most common obstacle that blocks the transition from striving to receiving. It is the belief, often buried so deep that you have never put words to it, that you are not the kind of person who receives. That provision of this kind, unearned, uninstrumented, pre-positioned and released by grace, that kind of provision is for other people, for the really spiritual ones, for the people who have their lives more together than you do, for the people who have not made the mistakes you have made or walked the path you have walked, or arrived at this season with the history you are carrying. This belief is the primary obstacle, and I want to address it directly because it is a lie, and it is a lie that wears the costume of humility so convincingly that most people never examine it. The lie says, "I am not worthy of that kind of provision," and it sounds humble. It sounds appropriately small. It sounds like the voice of a person who does not think too highly of themselves. But it is not humble. It is the voice of someone who has decided, on their own authority, that the God who named himself Jireh made an exception for them, that the prepositioned provision has everyone's name on it except theirs, that the kleronomia, the inheritance that was established before the foundation, somehow skips the person who is carrying it. That is not humility. That is a subtle form of self-centering that places your judgment of your own worthiness above the judgment of the God who designed the system. Because the system does not run on worthiness, it runs on alignment. And alignment is not something you earn by being good enough. Alignment is a posture, a quality of inner orientation, a direction of trust. And it is available to you right now, today, in this moment, with the history you are carrying and the mistakes you have made, and the ways in which your life has not gone according to your plan. Alignment does not require that you have it all together. It only requires that you stop insisting on generating it yourself and turn toward the source that has already generated it on your behalf. Now I want to name the internal obstacle beneath this belief, because beneath the belief that you are not worthy of receiving is usually a pattern that runs deeper, the pattern of performance, identity, the belief absorbed from the environment you grew up in or the experiences you went through that your value is determined by what you produce, that you are worth what you make, that your presence in any relationship, any community, any economy is justified by what you contribute, and that a person who receives without producing is a burden. A person who accepts grace without having earned it is taking something they have no right to. This pattern runs so deep in so many of the people watching this message that it has become invisible. It is the water you swim in. It is the air you breathe. And it is the primary reason that the word "do not look for work" creates anxiety rather than relief. Because for the person with performance identity, not working for provision feels not like freedom, but like danger. It feels like moral exposure. Like the universe will notice that you are not striving and decide you are not worth the provision. And the healing of that pattern is not a decision. It is not an affirmation you repeat. It is not a mindset shift that happens in an afternoon. It is a gradual reorientation of the deepest identity structure in you. The structure that says, "What I do is what I am," and the reorientation moves toward a different foundation, one that says, "What I am is who I was made to be." And who I was made to be has a provision that belongs to the being, not to the doing. This reorientation is what this season is building in you. It is the preparation beneath the preparation, and it is why the season has been as long as it has been, because this kind of reorientation cannot be rushed. It has to be lived through, tested, challenged, refined in the fire of real circumstances that force the question, do I trust this, or am I going to take matters into my own hands? And every time you have chosen trust over striving in this season, even imperfectly, even with doubt running alongside the trust like a shadow, every single time you have chosen trust, you have gone one layer deeper into the reorientation that is preparing you for the provision that has your name on it. Your duty in this season, the God duty that the title of this message names, is not the duty of endless production. It is the duty of sustained alignment. The duty of showing up in the posture of the eagle, wings spread, thermal trusted, rising in the direction of the calling, rather than flapping in the direction of the fear. That is the duty. And when that duty is honored, the richness follows, not as a transaction, as the natural expression of a life that is operating at the frequency for which it was designed. What I am about to address in the next part of this message is the most practical section we will cover. I want to give you something specific to hold, not just a truth to believe, but a tool to use. A framework for how to shift from the performance posture to the alignment posture in a way that is real and testable and grounded in the principles we have already established. And I want to do this in a way that honors both the spiritual depth of what we have covered and the practical reality of the life you are living. Because this is not a message for monks. This is a message for the person who has a job to do tomorrow and bills that are due next week, and a calling that has not yet fully expressed itself, and a God who says, I have already seen what you need before you knew you would need it. Stay with me. What comes next is the practical architecture of the aligned life, the tools that the ancient witnesses used without naming them, and the tools that modern understanding can help us name with precision. The shift from striving to receiving is not just a spiritual philosophy. It has a practical method, and you are about to learn it. I want to go deeper into something that we touched on in the obstacle section, but that deserves more space. Because the practical repositioning, the shift from striving economics to inheritance economics, runs directly into something that most spiritual teaching does not address honestly. And that is the experience of the body in the transition. The body has been trained, not by your choices alone, by years of living in a culture that rewards the striving mode at a neurological level. When you strive, when you produce, when you generate visible results, there is a chemical response in the body that feels like validation. Dopamine, the neurological experience of progress. And when you stop striving, when you shift into the alignment posture, the body initially interprets the absence of the dopamine hit as something wrong, as evidence that you are falling behind, as a signal that danger is approaching. This is why the shift from striving to receiving is not simply a decision of the will. You can decide to trust the thermal and still feel the anxiety of the freefall in your body for days or weeks before the nervous system recalibrates to the new mode. This is not weakness. This is not insufficient faith. This is the natural process of retraining a nervous system that was optimized for a different kind of operating mode. And the recalibration takes time. And during the recalibration, the feelings that arise, the urgency, the anxiety, the sense that you are doing something irresponsible by not striving, those feelings are not reliable guides. They are the sound of the old nervous system objecting to the new instructions. They are the static of the frequency transition. And like all static, the right response is not to go back to the old frequency. The right response is to hold the new frequency until the static clears. This recalibration of the nervous system is one of the specific things that the neurological tool I mentioned earlier in this message, the Genius Switch, was designed to support. Because the whole brain activation that Dr. Barone built into the tool does something specific to the survival frequency of the nervous system. When both hemispheres are synchronized, the brain shifts out of the threat detection mode that drives the striving impulse and into the receiving mode that the alignment posture requires. The synchronization is not overriding your nervous system. It is restoring it to the state it was designed to operate in. The state it operated in when you were a child, before the performance world trained it out of you. And this is not just theory. This is what the people who have made this transition describe. The first thing that changes is the quality of quiet inside. The noise level of the striving mind drops. The frantic calculation, the constant scanning for threats and opportunities and evidence that you are behind, that becomes less automatic. And in the quiet that opens up, there is more bandwidth for the signal I described in the fourth sign, the intuitive knowing, the directional clarity, the sense of being guided rather than being lost. The transition from the striving mode to the alignment mode is not just a spiritual transformation, it is a neurological one. And the spiritual and the neurological are not separate. They are different dimensions of the same shift. I want to say something about the practical economy that I believe will be among the most useful things in this message, because everything we have covered comes down to a daily practice, a daily choice about which economy you are operating in. Not a once-and-for-all decision, a daily choice. Because the striving mode is deeply familiar and the alignment mode is being learned. And every morning that you wake up, the pull back toward the familiar will be there. The old patterns do not disappear overnight. They are replaced gradually by the repeated choice to return to the alignment posture, even when the circumstances are presenting evidence in the other direction. The daily choice looks like this. Every morning, before you check the numbers, before you review the to-do list, before you calculate the gap between where you are and where you need to be, you make the choice. You open your hands. You take the receiving practice seriously for the 2 or 3 minutes it requires. You remind yourself of the 3 settled knowings: pre-positioned provision. Formation was not punishment. Identity is not circumstance. And then you move into the day from that foundation rather than from the foundation of what the numbers say. The numbers will change. The circumstances will shift. The evidence will begin to accumulate in the other direction. Not because you performed correctly, because the alignment opened the channel that the provision was already moving through. And the channel, once opened, does not close easily, because the posture of receiving, once established as the default, becomes self-reinforcing. Each arrival of provision that you receive with open hands rather than grasping ones deepens the trust that is the ground of the next reception, and the next reception deepens the trust further. And the accumulation of received provision builds, over time, the kind of settled confidence in the nature of Jireh that makes the striving mode feel not just unnecessary, but genuinely foreign. That is where this season is taking you, not to a single dramatic moment of provision that resolves everything, to a new operating mode, a new baseline, a new quality of inner life in which the anxiety of the striving mode has been replaced by the settled authority of the one who knows that the provision is already on its way. That new baseline is the richness forever, not just the money. The quality of life that comes from operating from your inheritance rather than your effort. The quality of daily experience that comes from being aligned with your calling rather than performing for your survival. That is the richness, and it is coming. There is something in the obstacle section that deserves a fuller treatment. Because the performance identity I described, the belief that your value is determined by what you produce, is not just a philosophical problem, it is an energetic one. It creates a specific quality of inner life that is identifiable and that has identifiable consequences. The person running on performance identity lives in a state of perpetual audit. Every experience is filtered through the question, does this demonstrate that I am enough? Every relationship is partly a mirror in which they are checking whether the reflection confirms or contradicts their value. Every achievement is not fully enjoyed because the achievement sets a new baseline that must now be maintained or exceeded. Every failure is not just a setback, but a threat to the fundamental story about who they are. The performance identity person is exhausted not primarily because of the volume of their work. They are exhausted because of the quality of the surveillance, the constant internal monitoring of whether they are measuring up, and the exhaustion of that surveillance is one of the primary reasons the provision keeps arriving just short of what is needed. Because the provision that comes from divine alignment is designed to be received by a person who is not in a constant state of internal emergency. The internal emergency of performance anxiety consumes so much bandwidth that the reception of what is already coming is impaired. The signal is there. The noise is too loud to hear it clearly. The healing of performance identity is the work of the formation, and the formation works on it specifically through the circumstances that force the question of whether you are still of value when you are not producing. The seasons of waiting. The seasons when the gifts are not on public display. The seasons when the provision is smaller than you need, and you must continue to show up faithfully without the external validation that production normally provides. These seasons are not random discomfort. They are the specific environment in which performance identity can be dismantled and replaced with something more durable. Something that does not need the surveillance because it does not need the external confirmation. The thing that replaces performance identity is what we might call inheritance identity, the deep knowing that your value is not located in your production but in your lineage, that you are the son or daughter of a father who established your provision before you had the capacity to earn any of it, that the kleronomia exists because of who you are in the family, not because of what you have done in the market. That the eagle does not earn the thermal by flying well. The thermal is the gift of the heat of the earth meeting the altitude of the eagle, the gift of the design meeting the nature. The eagle flies well because it has the thermal. It does not have the thermal because it flies well. This is the reversal that the formation is working toward. From production earns provision to identity accesses inheritance. From I must perform to be worthy of receiving to I receive because I am the inheritor. And the reversal, once it takes hold, changes everything about the quality of the work, because the work that comes from inheritance identity is freed from the anxiety that work coming from performance identity carries. It is work that is done from fullness rather than from deficit, from abundance rather than from scarcity, from the settled authority of someone who knows that the provision exists and that they are positioned to receive it, rather than from the desperation of someone who is not sure the provision will come if they do not force it into existence. That quality of work, that freed from anxiety engaged presence in the calling, is what produces the results that performance identity work cannot produce. Not because it works harder, because it works from a different frequency. The frequency of someone who has found the thermal. And the things that are available to a person on the thermal, the height, the range, the perspective, the ability to see what is below and navigate accordingly, those things are simply not accessible from the ground level of anxious wing beating. The quality of what you are about to produce in the next season, when the alignment is established and the inheritance identity is the operating system, will be qualitatively different from what you produced in the striving mode. Not because you became more talented, because you became more free. The practical architecture of the aligned life begins with a distinction that sounds simple but runs deeper than most people understand when they first encounter it. The distinction is between doing from a place of fear and doing from a place of knowing. Most human activity, most of the striving and the planning and the calculating and the securing is doing from a place of fear. Fear that the provision will not come unless you generate it. Fear that the opportunity will close unless you pursue it with sufficient desperation. Fear that you are not enough, that you are not doing enough, that the ceiling of your life will stay exactly where it is unless you push against it hard enough and long enough. Doing from a place of knowing is different. It is activity that arises from a settled understanding that the provision exists, that the calling is real, that the path you are walking is leading somewhere prepared. It is not passive. I want to say that again because it is the most commonly misunderstood aspect of this teaching. Activity from a place of knowing is not passive. It is engaged, purposeful, fully present activity. But it has a different quality to it. It does not have the frantic, grinding, desperate quality of fear-driven activity. It has the quality of the craftsman who knows their work is good and does not need to advertise with their anxiety. It has the quality of the farmer who plants the seed and waters the ground and then trusts the process that is happening beneath the soil. The farmer does not stand over the ground screaming at the seed to grow faster. The farmer does not dig up the seed every 3 days to check on its progress. The farmer plants with confidence, tends with faithfulness, and receives with gratitude. And the harvest comes not because the farmer manufactured it, but because the farmer worked in alignment with a process that was designed to produce exactly what was planted. This distinction, doing from fear versus doing from knowing, is the foundational shift that everything else rests on. And I want to give you something practical to help you make that shift in real time. Not a theoretical model, a specific practice. I call it the receiving practice, and it is drawn from the same principles that every wisdom figure we have examined today used, though none of them called it by this name. The receiving practice begins with your hands. In almost every sacred tradition in the world, open hands are the posture of receiving. Closed hands are the posture of holding, gripping, refusing to let go. Closed hands in prayer are the image of protection, of holding what you have. Open hands in prayer are the image of reception, of being available to what is coming. The receiving practice begins simply. Before you begin your day, before you move into the activity of your work, before you check the numbers or plan the tasks or calculate the strategy, you open your hands. Physically open your hands and hold them palms upward. And in that posture, you say something. You say, I am not here to manufacture. I am here to receive. What belongs to my name is already on its way. My hands are open. My path is clear. Guide me to the place where the provision is standing, and let me meet it with open hands, rather than grasping ones. You do not need to say it with those exact words. You need to say it with those exact intentions. The words are the vehicle. The intention is the substance. And the intention is simple. I am not striving today. I am aligned today. I am in position today. Let what is already on its way find me with my hands open rather than my fists clenched. This practice sounds almost too simple, and I want to address the part of you that is already dismissing it as too simple. The part of you that says a practice this basic cannot possibly address the complexity of my circumstances. But consider the practices that the ancient witnesses used. Solomon asked one question. Elijah walked to a ravine. Joseph served faithfully in whatever room he was in. None of those actions were complex. All of them were precise. The precision was in the alignment, not in the complexity. And the receiving practice is not trying to be complex. It is trying to be precise. Precise in the direction of your intention. Precise in the posture of your hands and your heart. Precise in the daily renewal of the choice to receive rather than to strive. The second tool I want to give you is something I call the surrender test. And this one requires more explanation because it is more counterintuitive. The surrender test is this. When you are stuck, when the path forward is unclear, when you have been pushing against a particular door and it is not opening, I want you to try something for 3 days. Do less in the direction of that specific door, not in every area of your life. In that specific area, the area where the striving has been loudest and the results have been most absent, in that area for 3 days, do less. Not nothing, do less. Continue to show up, continue to be present, but remove the frantic pushing energy from your approach to that specific area and replace it with the quality of attention that says, I am available here, but I am not forcing. I am present here, but I am not manufacturing. And then watch what happens to that door during the 3 days when you stopped pushing it. In my experience, and in the experience of many who have tested this practice, one of two things happens. Either the door begins to open in a way it was not opening while you were pushing, because your pushing was actually holding it closed. Or you discover, for the first time, that the door is not the door you were meant to walk through, that the pushing was misdirected energy, and that the door you are actually supposed to walk through is slightly to the left or the right, and you could not see it because you were so focused on the one you were forcing. The surrender test is not a passive test, it is an active one. It requires you to hold the tension of continued presence without continued forcing. It requires the discipline of someone who trusts the process enough to stop interfering with it. It is the hardest thing for a high-performing, purpose-driven, deeply motivated person to do, because everything in your formation has trained you to push harder when things are not working. But the surrender test asks you to consider, for 3 specific days in a specific area, what happens when you let the thermal carry you instead. The measurement, the specific output of the surrender test, is what happens at the door during those 3 days. Does it open without you pushing? Does it reveal itself as the wrong door? Does a different door appear that you had been ignoring? That is your data. That is how you test whether the area you have been straining in is an area of divine provision waiting for your alignment, or an area that was never meant to be where your energy went. The surrender test is not a permanent practice. It is a 3-day diagnostic, and the results will tell you more about the right direction for your energy than months of continued striving could have. Now I want to take you through something that goes deeper than a practice. I want to take you into the landscape of your own mind for a moment, because the tools we have just covered, the receiving practice and the surrender test, will only work to the degree that the ground they are planted in has been prepared. And the ground is the deep structure of how your mind has been organized around the question of provision. Close your eyes for a moment, if you are in a safe space to do so, or simply let your gaze go soft and your attention turn inward. I want you to imagine something specific. Imagine yourself standing in a field, not any field you have been in before, a field that feels familiar in the way that deep things feel familiar, as if your spirit has been here, even if your body has not. The field is large. The sky above it is the kind of wide-open sky that you only find when there are no buildings in the way. And the field has been prepared. The soil has been turned. The rows are ready. The season of planting has arrived. Now imagine what it has looked like to be in this field in the way that most of you have been living. Standing in the middle of the prepared ground, staring at the horizon, wondering when the seeds will appear. Calculating how many seeds you will need. Running toward the edges of the field to look for where the seeds might be coming from, returning to the center exhausted and empty-handed, wondering why the field is still unplanted. This is the picture of the striving mode. The field is prepared, the season is right, the harvest is possible, but the energy has been spent in the wrong direction. Now imagine something different. Imagine standing in that same field, the same prepared soil, the same wide sky, and instead of running toward the horizon, you stop. You open your hands, palms upward. You let the stillness of the field settle into your body. And from the stillness, from the quality of listening that the receiving practice builds, you hear something, not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. A quiet knowing that says, the seeds are coming from behind you. Turn around. And you turn around, and you see them. The ravens are already on their way. The provision is already in motion. It was moving toward you the whole time you were running away from it, looking for it. This is not a fantasy. This is a pattern. This is the pattern that runs through every ancient witness we have examined. The provision was always coming from a direction they were not expecting. From ravens instead of merchants, from a widow instead of a granary, from a palace instead of a rescue party. The provision that God has pre-positioned for your name in this season is moving toward you right now. And the only thing that can delay your encounter with it is running in the wrong direction looking for it. Open your hands, turn to receive what is already on its way. That is the guided activation I want to carry with you into what comes next. And what comes next is something I want to be direct about. Because we have spent a significant amount of this message in the territory of the spiritual and the philosophical and the ancient, and now I want to speak about something very specific, something that I have seen operate at the level of the brain itself, in the lives of chosen ones who are making this transition from striving to receiving. There is a researcher and neurologist based in New York City, a man named Dr. Daniel Barone, who has dedicated decades of his professional life to understanding what happens inside the human brain when a person moves from a survival frequency to a receiving frequency. What he found, and what his research is built on, connects directly to the work of Dr. Roger Sperry, who won the Nobel Prize in 1981 for his research into how the two hemispheres of the brain function separately and how their synchronization changes everything about human performance and perception. What Dr. Barone discovered is this: the striving mind, the mind running on fear-based provision-seeking, operates primarily from one hemisphere at a time. It is fragmented in a very specific way, and this fragmentation is not a character flaw. It is what happens to a brain that has been trained from childhood to prioritize left brain analysis and right brain intuition separately rather than together. The result is a mind that processes the world in a way that is efficient but incomplete, a mind that can either analyze or intuit, but rarely does both simultaneously at full power. And the person with this fragmented processing experiences exactly what most of the chosen ones listening to this message have been experiencing: the ability to work hard without feeling like the work is producing what they know should be possible. Because the kind of provision alignment we have been describing, the kind that operates in the kleronomia economy rather than the striving economy, requires both hemispheres working together in synchronization. It requires the analytical mind and the intuitive mind to operate as one. It requires the state that Dr. Sperry identified as the peak state of human cognitive function, the state that every genius, every innovator, every person operating at the level of their highest capacity accesses at the moments of their greatest breakthroughs. The state that children have naturally and that adults have had systematically educated out of them. Dr. Barone spent years studying how to reactivate that synchronization in adult brains. And what he built is not a theory. It is a specific, targeted, 8-minute auditory sequence called the genius switch, designed to bring both hemispheres of the brain back into the synchronized state that was present in you as a child before the performance-based world taught your brain to fragment itself in the service of survival. Not a sound bath, not background music, a precisely engineered neural synchronization tool built on the same Nobel Prize-winning research that represents the gold standard of split-brain neuroscience. The genius switch is 8 minutes. You put on headphones, you close your eyes, you breathe, and you let the sequence do what it was designed to do beneath the level of your conscious effort. There is nothing to meditate on, nothing to repeat, nothing to perform. It works beneath your awareness, which means the very faculty of striving cannot interfere with its function. It simply synchronizes, it simply activates. It restores the whole brain state that is the neurological ground of exactly the kind of receiving that we have been talking about in this message. The people who have used it describe something very specific. They describe the quality of knowing I named in the 4th sign, the intuitive flashes, and the clear directional sense, becoming stronger. They describe the anxious, calculating energy of the striving mind becoming quieter. They describe a quality of presence and groundedness that begins to feel less like something they are trying to achieve and more like something they are simply in, like the eagle that has stopped flapping and found the thermal, like the person who stopped running toward the horizon and turned around to find the ravens already on their way. A woman named Ellie from Manhattan described it in terms that I think many of you will recognize. Her family had carried what they called a bad star, a sense that no matter how hard they worked or how faithfully they tried, provision always arrived late, always came close, and then pulled back, always left them one step behind where they needed to be. Her father gave 22 faithful years to a company and was promoted the very week the company collapsed. She tried everything she knew, and then a colleague told her about the genius switch. Within weeks, she described something in her thinking changing, doors beginning to open that she had not been pushing, connections arriving that she had not been chasing, the quality of her decision-making shifting in a way that was not traceable to her effort, but was undeniably real in its results. She called it the thing that broke the pattern, not the thing that fixed her life, the thing that broke the pattern that had been holding the life back. I am not telling you that the genius switch will do for you exactly what it did for Ellie. I am telling you that the neuroscience behind it is real, that the research is credible, and that the tool is built on principles that are directly aligned with everything we have been teaching today. The restoration of whole brain function is not separate from the spiritual work of moving from striving to receiving. It is the neurological dimension of the same shift. The spirit moves into the posture of alignment, and the brain needs to follow. The genius switch helps the brain follow. Dr. Barone does not make this tool available through general retail channels. You will not find it on the major streaming platforms. It is not available through the usual app stores. You can only get it through the official channel that Dr. Barone controls. And because of the specificity of the tool and the nature of the research behind it, his colleagues originally assessed it as worth $500 for a single individual session. He made it available for far less than that, $49 normally. Today, through the link available in this description and in the pinned comment below, the price is $39. A single $10 reduction for those who find this through this message. And it comes with 4 things that Dr. Barone has included at no additional cost for those who access it at this price. A guided visualization created by one of the top-rated creators on the Calm platform, specifically designed to help you envision your life in its 4 core dimensions: money, love, health, and happiness, unfolding as it was designed to unfold. A smart food guide that identifies the 10 most common foods that contribute to brain fog and offers specific alternatives that support clear, whole brain function. A classic work on the principles of abundance that represents the root of virtually every modern manifestation approach, available for free at checkout, though it retails separately. And an infographic of the 5 habits most associated with the creation of an ideal future, designed for print and display. All 4 included. The price will not stay at $39. Dr. Barone has indicated that as demand increases and his time becomes more committed to supporting existing users, the online availability of this tool may change. The certainty is only the price available today, through the link in the description and the pinned comment. If your spirit confirms that the neurological dimension of this shift is something you want to address, go there. If it does not confirm, do not go. This is for those who feel the invitation. This is not for everyone. And there is a version of this message that is complete without it, because the ancient witnesses did not have a neural synchronization tool, and the Holy Spirit did not wait for Dr. Barone before doing what he does. But for those who want to give their brain every tool that is available for this shift. That tool is there. Before you go anywhere, I want to make one thing clear. The only place to find the genius switch is the link that Dr. Barone controls, which is the one in the description and pinned comment below. You will find imitations on YouTube and music streaming platforms that claim to do what this does. They cannot, because what makes the genius switch different is not its genre, it is its engineering. The neural synchronization technology behind it is not available in general-purpose sound content. If you find something that claims to be the genius switch anywhere other than the official link, it is not the same tool. Protect what you are investing in. Use only the official channel. Now, for those who feel the invitation and for those who do not, the message continues. Because what comes next is the section I believe will be the most remembered part of everything we have covered today. We are moving into the identity of the chosen one in the season of provision, who you actually are when you stop performing for what was already yours. What you discover about yourself when the striving stops and the receiving begins, and there are 5 declarations waiting for you in that discovery. 5 truths that I want to speak over your life with the full authority of what the ancient evidence has established. What is coming will not just inform your thinking, it will seal something in your spirit that the season has been building toward since before this message began. Stay. I want to spend a moment addressing what I know many of you are holding, the practical question beneath the spiritual teaching. The question that says, this is meaningful, this is true, and I also have a specific need right now that I need addressed in a specific time frame. The question that says, the season of provision sounds wonderful, but what do I do about the bill that is due next week? This is the right question, and I want to honor it with a direct answer. The alignment posture that this message describes is not an instruction to be financially irresponsible. It is not a spiritual reason to stop paying attention to the practical details of your life. The receiving practice does not replace your professional skills or your business acumen or the practical work that your calling requires. It realigns the energy behind those things. It changes the frequency from which the practical work flows, and that change in frequency changes the quality of the work itself, and consequently, its results, in ways that are real and measurable. What the alignment posture does to the practical work is this. It removes the anxiety that has been reducing the quality of your thinking. When you are striving from fear, the quality of your decision-making is degraded. The creative solutions that are available to a calm mind are not available to an anxious one. The connections and opportunities that are visible to a person who is operating with the full use of their intuitive faculty are not visible to a person who is running on the adrenaline of scarcity thinking. The alignment posture does not remove the practical work. It improves the practical work by improving the state of the person doing it. Dr. Barone's research and the Nobel Prize winning work that underlies it confirms this at a neurological level. When both hemispheres of the brain are synchronized, the quality of problem solving improves dramatically. The ability to make connections between disparate pieces of information, to see patterns that the fragmented brain misses, to generate creative solutions that the striving mind cannot access. These faculties come online in full force when the brain is operating in the whole brain state. Steve Jobs described his most innovative thinking as happening in a state of relaxed alertness, not in a state of anxious striving. Every flow state researcher in the world will tell you the same thing. Peak performance and peak perception happen in a state of engaged relaxation, not in a state of fear-driven effort. The Genius Switch is an 8-minute daily investment in the neurological condition that produces that quality of thinking before your most important work of the day, before the conversation that matters, Before the decision that has been weighing on you, 8 minutes of whole brain synchronization changes the quality of everything that follows it, not as a placebo, as a neurological fact. The synchronized brain performs differently than the fragmented brain. And the synchronization that the genius switch produces is not a temporary state. The research shows that regular use builds the neurological pathway over time, making the whole brain state more accessible, more automatic, more the baseline rather than the exception. That is the neurological dimension of what this season is building in the spiritual dimension. The spirit is learning to receive. The brain, given the right support, learns to operate in the mode that receiving requires, and the practical life, grounded in both a spirit that trusts and a brain that is functioning at its designed capacity, begins to produce results that were not possible from the striving mode. Not because you became a different person, because you became more fully the person you were designed to be, the person whose natural state is the whole brain synchronized state, the person whose default posture is open hands rather than grasping ones, the person who was made for the thermal and is finally, in this season, learning to spread their wings and trust the current that has been waiting beneath them all along. I want to speak to something that sits at the intersection of the spiritual and the practical that does not get enough attention in conversations like this one. The relationship between faith and intelligence. There is a false dichotomy that runs through both religious and secular culture. On the religious side, the idea that faith requires the suspension of critical thinking, that the more you trust God, the less you use your mind. On the secular side, the idea that intelligence requires the suspension of spiritual trust, that the more rigorously you think, the less room there is for what cannot be proven. Both of these ideas are wrong, and both of them are doing damage. The ancient wisdom figures did not suspend their intelligence in order to trust the divine. Solomon used both his wisdom and his trust. The prophetic precision required both spiritual sensitivity and astute reading of political and natural reality. The administration of Joseph of the Egyptian grain supply required organizational genius that could have rivaled the best logistical minds in any era. What the ancient witnesses demonstrate is not the suspension of intelligence in the service of faith. They demonstrate the full integration of intelligence and faith into a single operating mode. A mode where the analytical mind and the intuitive spirit are not in competition, but in collaboration, where the logic and the knowing reinforce each other rather than contradict each other. This is the whole brain state, the state that Dr. Sperry identified as the peak state of human cognitive function, the state that the genius switch was designed to restore. And the restoration of that state is not a spiritual bypass. It is the integration of everything you are, everything your brain was designed to do, everything your spirit was designed to know, into a single coherent operating mode that the performance-fragmented world never allowed you to inhabit fully until now, until this season, until the formation that has been preparing the vessel. And the tool that bridges the neurological and the spiritual is available to you today at the link in the description and the pinned comment for $39, with a money-back guarantee that Dr. Barone stands behind completely. If you use it and it does not deliver what the research promises, you get your money back. No questions, no conditions. Not because it does not work, because he is confident enough in what it does to offer the guarantee as the evidence of that confidence. Identity. This is where the message has been moving all along, not toward a concept, toward a knowing. The kind of knowing that does not need to argue with itself, does not need to rehearse its justifications, does not need the approval of anyone who does not understand it. The kind of knowing that sits in the body the same way that breathing sits in the body. As the most natural, most automatic, most fundamental thing there is. The identity of the chosen one in the season of provision is not a role that you perform, it is a reality that you inhabit. And the 5 declarations I am about to speak over you are not affirmations designed to make you feel better. They are recognitions. They are the naming of what has already been true about you throughout the entirety of the season you have been walking through. The first declaration: you are not here by accident, and you have never been here by accident. Not in the spiritual sense of the phrase, not as a comfortable idea, as a literal fact. The path that brought you to this specific moment, with this specific formation, with this specific hunger and this specific readiness, was not constructed by random events or by the sum of your own choices. It was navigated by a consciousness that operates beyond the boundaries of linear time, that sees the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end, and that has been working with your whole story, not just the parts of it that you can currently see from inside it. The seasons that felt like setbacks were not setbacks. The years that felt like wasted time were not wasted. The relationships that ended in ways you did not choose were not failures. They were all coordinates on a path that was designed with the same precision that God used when he placed the ram in the thicket before Abraham was told to go to the mountain. You did not happen to find this message. You did not accidentally arrive at this season of your life. You were navigated here, and the navigator who brought you here knows where the path goes next. Type the word Amen if this first declaration has met something in you. If your spirit is saying yes to the recognition that you were navigated to this moment, let your Amen be the agreement. The second declaration: the provision that belongs to your name is not in jeopardy. This is important to hear because the circumstances of your life may currently be presenting evidence that suggests the opposite. The bank account may be presenting evidence. The business revenue may be presenting evidence. The job situation may be presenting evidence. The relationships may be presenting evidence. And the evidence is real. I am not asking you to ignore it. I am asking you to hold it in the context of what we have established together today. The evidence of your current circumstances is not the final word on your provision. The evidence of your current circumstances is the current frame, and the current frame is not the whole picture. Joseph, in the prison, had evidence that suggested his life was heading nowhere. The evidence was real. The prison walls were real. The unfairness was real. And the provision that was being prepared for his name was more real than any of it. The provision was already positioned at the coordinates he was moving toward, regardless of what the evidence inside the prison said about the likelihood of his ever getting there. Your provision is more real than your current evidence. The kleronomia that was established for your name before the foundation of your story is not dependent on the current state of your bank account or your business or your relationships or your circumstances. It is dependent on the nature of the God who established it. And the nature of the God who established it is Jireh, the one who sees forward, the one who sees the ram before Abraham sees the mountain, the one who sees the palace when you can only see the prison. Your provision is not in jeopardy. It was never in jeopardy. The only thing that ever stood between you and it was the striving that was keeping you facing the wrong direction. The third declaration: the gifts in you are not diminished by the season you have been walking through. They are magnified. I want to speak to the specific pain of the person who has watched their gifts feel dormant in a season of waiting. Who has felt the calling burning inside them, while the platform for that calling has remained small or invisible or inaccessible? Who has known that they carry something of value and has not been able to find the people who need it? Who has built and created and invested in their gifting and has not yet seen the return that the investment should have generated by now? What I want to tell you is this: a diamond in the dark is still a diamond. Its value is not determined by whether it is currently in a lit room. The formation season does not diminish the gift. It clarifies it. It removes from it everything that was added by performance anxiety and people-pleasing and the need for external validation. It strips away the parts of the gift that were mixed with ego or with fear or with the desire for significance. And what remains, after the stripping, is the gift at its purest. The gift as it was designed to operate without the impurities that the performance world introduced into it. The season of waiting is not the season of diminishment. It is the season of purification. And the gift that emerges from a purification season is a different quality of gift than the one that went in. It is less concerned with its own success and more concerned with its actual purpose. It is less attached to recognition and more committed to service. It is less fragile in the face of criticism and more grounded in the nature of what it was created to do. This is the gift that is about to be released into the world in your name. Not the performance gift, the purified gift. And the people who need what you carry have been waiting for exactly this version of it. The fourth declaration: you are allowed to outgrow what you have outgrown. I want to say that again. You are allowed to outgrow what you have outgrown. You are allowed to have changed in ways that make the old spaces too small for you. You are allowed to have developed a new frequency that is incompatible with the old environments. You are allowed to need something different from relationships than what you needed 5 years ago. You are allowed to have priorities that the people around you do not share. You are allowed to protect what God is building in you, even when the people who love you cannot understand why you are protecting it. You are allowed to outgrow places. You are allowed to outgrow vocations. You are allowed to outgrow versions of yourself that served their purpose and are now holding you back. You are allowed to move on from the story that other people wrote for you before you knew who you were. You are allowed to step into the story that the Father wrote for you before you were born. You are allowed to take up the space that the calling requires. You are allowed to inhabit the identity that the season of formation has been building in you, even before the platform has caught up to the person. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Not your family, not your community, not the version of yourself that everyone else was comfortable with. The chosen one who is entering the season of provision is not the same person who entered the season of formation. The formation changed things. The formation was supposed to change things. And the changes are not errors to be corrected. They are the evidence of the work. They are the fingerprints of the Father on the life He has been building. Be proud of the changes, not ashamed of them. You did not outgrow things because you failed at them. You outgrew them because you grew. The fifth declaration: the richness that God has assigned to this season is real, and it is coming, and it has your name on it. Not someone else's richness, your specific richness. The version of provision that is shaped to fit your calling, your gifts, your capacity, your particular combination of skill and sensitivity and history and purpose. Not generic abundance, specifically yours. Prepared before you needed it. Positioned before you could have asked for it. Moving toward you as we speak. Guided by the same God who commanded the ravens before Elijah arrived at the ravine. The richness forever that the title of this message names is not a slogan. It is the nature of inheritance. Because kleronomia, the inheritance that was established for your name in the divine economy, does not expire. It is not seasonal. It is not dependent on market conditions or political climates or the generosity of any human being. It is established in the nature of the one who set it aside, and the nature of that one is eternal. The richness of the Father who set aside your portion before the foundation of your story does not run out. It does not diminish. It does not reach a ceiling. It flows from a source that has never been and will never be depleted. Richness forever is not poetry. It is the logical conclusion of the nature of Jehovah-Jireh. Take a breath. Let those 5 declarations settle. You were navigated here. Your provision is not in jeopardy. Your gifts have been magnified in the waiting. You are allowed to outgrow what you have outgrown. And the richness that is coming is real, specific, and designed for exactly who you are. Those 5 things are true, not because they sound good, because the ancient evidence has established them, because the witnesses of Solomon and Elijah and Joseph have confirmed them, because the God who sees forward has already seen them in your future. There is a testimony I want to share before we move into the closing ceremony of this message. I will not give you a name or identifying details, but this person gave me permission to share the shape of their story. Someone who was in the formation season I have been describing for 7 years. 7 years of faithful presence in circumstances that gave very little external confirmation that the formation was leading anywhere. They had the gifts, they had the calling, they had the hunger that would not quiet, and for 7 years they had almost nothing to show for it externally. During that 7th year, they made a decision, not a dramatic decision, a quiet one. They decided to stop measuring their progress by external metrics, to stop comparing their timeline to anyone else's, to stop straining against the door that would not open, and to start simply being faithful in the room they were in. They practiced what I now call the receiving practice, without having that name for it. They opened their hands. They stopped chasing. They stayed present. They trusted the thermal. And in month 3 of that decision, a contact they had never sought out reached out to them with an opportunity that required exactly the preparation that 7 years of formation had built into them. Nothing about the opportunity made obvious logical sense. The source was unexpected. The timing was improbable. The size of the opening was disproportionate to anything they had experienced before. And they walked through it. Not because they had finally worked hard enough, not because the universe had finally decided to reward their patience, but because the provision that had been pre-positioned with their name on it had been moving toward them all along. And in the month, they stopped running away from it, looking for it. They turned around and walked straight into it. He proved himself faithful in the hidden season before he was visible in the public one. And the fruit of that faithfulness was a provision that could not have been engineered by human strategy, not in the size of it, not in the specificity of it, not in the way it addressed the exact combination of gifts and calling and preparation that 7 years had built. It was pre-positioned, it was precisely theirs, and it arrived in the season that God had always intended for it to arrive, which was the season when the person was finally ready to receive it with open hands rather than grasping ones. That story is coming for you, not in 7 years necessarily, in the timing of the God who sees forward, which is the only timing that matters and the only timing that can be trusted. The season of provision is not determined by your calendar or your urgency or your calculation of how long you have been waiting and how long you deserve to keep waiting. It is determined by the God who designed the path and who knows, better than any of you can currently see, exactly when the coordinates of your readiness and the coordinates of your provision will finally intersect. And before this message goes to the place of sacred closing, I want to speak something over you that I believe needs to be said clearly and without softening. The season you are leaving is not a season that failed. The season you have been walking through, whatever it looked like, however long it lasted, however many times you questioned whether it was ever going to change, that season did not fail. It succeeded at exactly what it was designed to do. It formed you. It purified you. It stripped away what did not belong. It built what will be needed. It prepared the specific vessel for the specific provision, and that vessel is you, right now, exactly as you are, ready in ways you cannot yet measure, but that the God who sees forward has already confirmed. If something has confirmed in your spirit through this testimony, if the story of the one who stopped running and turned to receive landed somewhere deep in you and struck something true, type the words, "I receive." Let those two words be your declaration. I receive the provision. I receive the season. I receive the identity. I receive the richness that was established for my name before the foundation of this story. Type it. Let it be your commitment. Type, I receive. And then breathe one more time, because what comes next is the place this message has always been heading, the sacred closing, the ceremony of receiving, the moment when everything that has been established in this message is sealed in your spirit, through declaration and through release, and through the kind of inner quiet that carries everything forward into the days ahead. Stay. What comes next is for you. I want to stay with the identity declarations for a moment longer, because there is a tendency, in the emotion of a powerful message, for declarations to land with great force in the moment and then fade when the circumstances of daily life reassert themselves. And I want to give you something that will help the declarations hold their ground when the fading pressure comes. The declarations hold their ground not through repetition alone. They hold through what I call the evidence practice. Each morning, before you begin the receiving practice, you take 60 seconds to look at the evidence that confirms the declarations. Not the evidence in the visible circumstances, the evidence in the path, the evidence in the formation, the evidence in the provision that has already come, even in the seasons when it arrived in forms smaller than you needed. You look at the fact that you are still here, that the formation did not destroy you, that the hunger that has been present since the beginning is still burning, that the gifts are still intact, that the calling has not been silenced by any of the circumstances that tried to silence it, that you have been navigated through every season, including the hardest ones. And in that 60 seconds of evidence review, you find at least one thing, one specific, concrete thing, that confirms that the God who sees forward has not lost track of you. One thing. That is enough. Because the declarations do not need a mountain of evidence. They need a foothold. And one specific confirmation, held clearly for 60 seconds, gives them the foothold that holds them through the pressure of the day. This is what the chosen ones throughout history did, though they did not call it the evidence practice. David wrote the Psalms in part as a record of evidence. He would rehearse what God had done in his past as the ground for trusting what God was doing in his present. Elijah, in his season of deepest discouragement after the mountain of Carmel, was not restored by a new mission statement. He was restored by bread and water, by the tangible, specific, physical reality of provision showing up in the wilderness, even when he felt most abandoned. The evidence practice is the same. You bring to mind the specific, tangible realities that confirm the pattern. And the pattern, held clearly enough, holds the declarations in place. There is also this. The 5 declarations I spoke over you earlier in this message are not the only declarations available to you. They are the ones that belong to this specific season. But the chosen one in the season of provision has a full vocabulary of identity available, and the specific declarations that hold the most power for you are the ones that most directly contradict the specific lies that have been most active in your formation season. The person whose primary lie has been, "I am not worthy of provision," needs the declaration, "I am the inheritor of kleronomia." Worthy was never the standard. Inheritance is the standard. The person whose primary lie has been, "I have been forgotten," needs the declaration, "I was navigated here." Forgotten people do not get navigated. The person whose primary lie has been "my gifts are not enough" needs the declaration, "My gifts were magnified in the waiting." The purification season does not diminish gifts. It clarifies them. Find the specific declaration that speaks most directly into the specific lie that has been most active in your season. That is your declaration. Hold it with the evidence. Practice every morning until it is the thing you believe without having to rehearse it. Because that is the destination, the settled knowing, the identity that does not need constant reinforcement because it has become the foundation rather than the aspiration. I want to speak to those who have been in the formation season so long that they have started to wonder if they imagined the calling. If the hunger that has been burning is the result of wishful thinking rather than genuine, divine appointment. If they have been telling themselves a story about significance that does not correspond to any objective reality, this doubt does not mean the calling is not real. It means the formation has been long enough to generate that kind of questioning. And the questioning is part of the formation, not because God wants you to doubt, but because the calling that survives the season of doubt is stronger than the calling that never had to confront it. The calling is real. The hunger is evidence, not fabrication. The formation was real preparation, not wasted time. And the provision that belongs to your name is real provision, not a spiritual concept. These are the things that the ancient witnesses confirm with the weight of their full stories. These are the things that Jehovah-Jireh confirms with the weight of his own name. And these are the things that the sacred closing of this message is about to seal into your spirit with the full authority of the declaration and the release and the receiving that comes next. Your journey to this moment has been real, every season of it. The seasons that felt like progress and the seasons that felt like regression. The moments of clarity and the nights of doubt. The provision that arrived and the provision that seemed delayed. The relationships that grew you and the ones that cost you. All of it has been real. All of it has been seen. All of it has been worked into the formation of the specific vessel that is required for the specific provision that has your name on it. And not a single moment of it has been outside the sight of the God who sees forward. Not one breath of it has been forgotten. Not one prayer of it has been unheard. Not one day of faithfulness has been unrecorded in the account that the Father keeps. And the account is full, the formation is sufficient, the vessel is ready, the thermal is rising, and the richness forever that the title of this message names is not a destination on a distant horizon. It is the quality of life available to the chosen one who has learned to spread their wings and trust the current that has been preparing to carry them since before the first day of the formation began. That quality of life begins now, not when the circumstances change, now. In this season, with open hands and a spirit that has decided, in the face of all the evidence and despite all the doubt, to trust the thermal. I want to speak to something that the identity declarations may have surfaced in some of you. A question that lives at the intersection of the deeply personal and the deeply spiritual. The question is this: if my provision is pre-positioned and my identity is secure and my inheritance is established, why do I still feel afraid so often? Why does the fear keep returning even when the theology is clear and the ancient witnesses are compelling and the truth of the declarations is not in serious intellectual doubt? The answer to that question is not that you have insufficient faith. The answer is that fear is a body experience before it is a spiritual one. The nervous system was designed to protect you from threat, and the nervous system has been trained, through years of living in a performance-based world, to read the absence of striving as a form of threat. When you stop manufacturing your provision, the nervous system reads it as exposure, as danger. The same system that would fire if you were standing at the edge of a cliff fires when you open your hands and stop controlling the outcome. Not because you are actually in danger, because the nervous system does not yet know the difference between the edge of a cliff and the edge of the thermal. And here is the practice when the fear returns. You do not argue with it. You do not try to override it with theology. You acknowledge it. You say, I see you. I know what you are doing. You are doing what you were designed to do. You are trying to protect me. And what you are trying to protect me from is not real danger. It is the new experience of trusting the thermal. And the thermal is real. So you acknowledge the fear without being led by it. You feel it without following it into the striving mode. You let it move through the body the way weather moves through a landscape, present for a moment and then passing, leaving the sky cleaner behind it. This is what the receiving practice supports, not the elimination of fear, the ability to hold fear without being controlled by it. And that ability, the ability to be afraid and trust the thermal anyway, is one of the most important capacities a chosen one can develop. Because the provision seasons of the ancient witnesses were not fear-free. Solomon trembled in his asking. Elijah fled in his fear to the point that he asked God to let him die. Joseph wept in the arms of his brothers when the reunion came. The chosen ones in every era have felt fear. What distinguished them was not the absence of fear. It was the choice to obey the instruction, even while the fear was present, to go to the ravine, to open the hands, to serve faithfully in the prison, to trust the thermal. Fear present, wings spread anyway. That is the capacity, and the formation has been building it in you. You have come this far, and I want you to know that the fact that you are still here, that you have stayed through the whole of this message, is not a small thing. Most people do not stay. Most people encounter a truth that requires something of them, and they find a reason to leave before the requirement becomes fully visible. You stayed. You stayed through the signs that named your tiredness and your shifting and your restlessness. You stayed through the ancient evidence of Solomon and Elijah and Joseph. You stayed through the teaching on the 3 areas of repositioning. You stayed through the identity declarations. You stayed through the testimony. And now you are at the place where everything that was said is about to be sealed. Before we go into the sacred closing, I want to do something that I believe will serve you beyond this message. I want to give you a clear summary, not a recap for its own sake, but a distillation. The 3 things I want you to carry out of this message as settled knowing rather than passing inspiration. Because knowing and inspiration are different. Inspiration fades when the circumstances press back. Knowing holds when everything else shakes. And this message was built to produce knowing, not just inspiration. The first thing I want you to carry as settled knowing, your provision is pre-positioned, not as a belief, as a fact. The God who named himself Jehovah-Jireh has already seen what you need before you knew you would need it. The ram was in the thicket before Abraham raised the knife. The ravens were commanded before Elijah arrived at the ravine. The grain was stored before the famine struck. And whatever provision this specific season of your life requires, it was designed, positioned, and is currently in motion toward the coordinates you are walking toward. Your job is not to generate it. Your job is to walk the path with your hands open and your direction clear. The provision will find you. The second thing I want you to carry as settled knowing. The formation you have been through was not punishment. Every single season that felt like a setback was preparation. Every single relationship that ended in a way you did not choose cleared space for a connection that the new frequency required. Every single delay was the construction of something in you that the next season could not exist without. And the evidence for this is not wishful thinking. It is a pattern that runs through the lives of the most significant chosen ones in the history of the sacred record. They all went through the formation before the provision. Every one of them, and none of them understood the purpose of the formation while they were inside it. Neither could you. That is not a failure of your faith. That is the design. The third thing I want you to carry as settled knowing. Your identity is not dependent on your current circumstances. The richness forever that belongs to your name is not located in the current state of your bank account, or your business, or your relationships, or your health. It is located in the nature of the God who established it, and the nature of the calling that is embedded in you. And that richness, that kleronomia, that portion that was set aside for you before the foundation of your story, it is coming. It is already in motion. It is moving with the faithfulness of the ravens, the consistency of the oil of the widow, and the mathematical precision of the providence that turned every step of the impossible journey of Joseph's journey into a necessary coordinate on the path to the palace. Your richness is coming, and it is coming in a way that is specific to you, built for your gifts, sized for your calling, shaped for exactly who you have become through the formation you have just survived. Those three things, settled knowing, carry them, not as ideas, as ground. Let them be the foundation beneath your feet when the circumstances try to present evidence to the contrary, because they will. The circumstances will continue to present evidence. The bank account will continue to have its days. The business will continue to have its seasons. The relationships will continue to go through their transitions. And on those days, on those seasons, in those transitions, you will need something beneath your feet that does not move when the evidence moves. These three things are that ground, pre-positioned provision. Formation was not punishment. Identity is not determined by circumstances. Stand on that ground. And now, the sacred closing, the activation ceremony, the moment where what was said becomes sealed. Before I declare anything over you, I want to acknowledge the journey you have been on, not the journey of this message, the journey of the season, because you have not been on an easy path. You have been on a path that required you to stay when everything in you wanted to move, a path that required you to trust when the evidence for trust was thin, a path that required you to carry a calling that had not yet found its full expression, a hunger that had not yet found its full answer, a knowing that had not yet found its full platform. You have carried those things faithfully. You have not set them down. You have not traded them for comfort. You have not let the silence of the season convince you that the calling was not real. That faithfulness, the quiet, unglamorous, daily faithfulness of staying aligned through a season of formation, is something the Father has seen every single day of it. I hear the Father saying, I have seen every day. I have seen the mornings when you woke and the weight was heavy before the day began. I have seen the nights when the quiet felt more like emptiness than peace. I have seen the moments when the striving returned despite your best intentions and you felt like you had gone backward. I have seen all of it, and none of it was outside my sight, and none of it was outside my purpose. You have not been abandoned. You have been in the formation, and the formation is nearly complete. The season you are entering is unlike the season you are leaving. What was being built in the hidden place is about to be visible in the open place. The thermal is rising. Spread your wings. Now, the release. There are things you have been carrying that were not yours to carry into the next season, and I want to offer you the chance to put them down. not by deciding intellectually that you are releasing them, but by actually releasing them in your mind, in your body, in the part of you that has been holding on without realizing it was holding on. Release the belief that you must earn your provision before you deserve to receive it. It was never a wage. It was always an inheritance. Put it down. Release the timeline that you created for your breakthrough. The one that said, by now I should have, by now this should have happened, by now I should be further along. That timeline was built with human logic in a divine economy. It was never going to be accurate, and the gap between your timeline and the Father's timing has caused more unnecessary suffering than almost anything else in the formation season. Put it down. Release the shame of the seasons that did not go as you planned, the failures, real and perceived, the moments you wish had gone differently, the choices you would make differently if you could go back, the ways in which your humanity showed itself in the formation. The God who sees forward was not surprised by any of it, and none of it altered the provision that was pre-positioned for your name. The inheritance does not shrink when you make a mistake. It is established by the nature of the one who established it, not by the quality of your track record. Put it down. And release the fear that the provision is not coming. The fear that has dressed itself as caution, as responsibility, as realism, as the evidence of your current circumstances. The fear that says this message sounds beautiful, but I have heard beautiful things before, and the circumstances did not change. That fear is understandable. That fear makes human sense. And the God who designed the system of pre-positioned provision also knew that fear would be the primary obstacle to receiving it, which is why he did not leave you with just a philosophy. He left you with ravens. He left you with oil that does not run dry. He left you with the story of Joseph. He left you with kleronomia. And he is leaving you in this moment with this message, not to be inspiring, to be evidence. Evidence that the pattern is real. Evidence that the provision is real. Evidence that the season is turning. Put the fear down. You have now released three things: the earning belief, the timeline, the shame, and the fear. You have made space. And into the space that the release has created, I want to speak the declaration that this message has been building toward since the first word you heard. You are the chosen one, not as a title, as a truth. You were chosen before the foundation of your story for a specific purpose that only you can carry in the specific way that you carry it. You were navigated through the formation, every season of it, including the seasons that felt like failure. You are the carrier of gifts that were designed to serve people who are waiting for exactly what you have. You are the inheritor of kleronomia, the portion that was established for your name in the divine economy before you had the capacity to earn a single thing. You are the one for whom the thermal is rising right now. You are the one for whom the ravens are already commanded. You are the one whose palace was being prepared in the season that looked like the pit. And the richness forever, the provision that the Father has pre-positioned for this season of your life. It is not coming toward a better version of you that has not yet arrived. It is coming toward you exactly as you are in this moment, with the history you are carrying, with the formation you have just survived, with the hunger that is still burning and the gifts that are still present, and the calling that has never gone quiet, no matter how long the season has lasted. It is coming toward you. The door is open. The thermal is rising. Your hands are open. I declare over your life that this is the season of your receiving, that the provision that has your name on it is about to arrive through channels you did not anticipate, from sources you did not plan, at a time that was determined not by your effort, but by the faithfulness of the God who sees forward. I declare that the richness of this season is not a moment, but a foundation. Not a windfall, but an inheritance that flows continuously from the source that has no ceiling and no floor. I declare that the eagle moment is now, that the wings are open, that the thermal is real, and that what rises from here is not driven by your striving, but by the current of a calling that was designed before you were born and will be fulfilled in your lifetime. Take a breath. Let that declaration settle into the bones. Let it go past the mind that is already calculating and down into the body that simply knows. The body that recognized the 5 signs. The body that has been carrying this calling. The body that has been tired in the ways the formation requires. Let the declaration land there. And so it is. If the sacred closing just sealed something in you, if the declaration landed in the place where declarations land when they are true, then type the words, "I am ready." Let those 3 words be your final commitment. I am ready for the provision. I am ready for the season. I am ready to stop striving and start receiving. I am ready to be the person this formation built. Type, I am ready. For those who felt called during this message to the tool that supports the neurological dimension of this shift, the Genius Switch is waiting at the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Dr. Daniel Barone built it for exactly the kind of transition this message describes. 8 minutes. Headphones. Whole brain activation. The neural synchronization that is the neurological version of spreading your wings for the thermal. If you feel the invitation, it is there. If this message found you at the right moment, if something in it named something you have been carrying without words, gently press the like button, not for a channel. Because something in you agreed with truth, let that press be your amen without sound. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who has been in a long season of formation, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who is carrying a calling that has not yet found its platform, someone who is tired in the ways the chosen ones get tired, someone who needs to hear that their provision is not in jeopardy and their formation was not punishment and their gifts have been magnified in the waiting. Share this with them. Your share might be the word that breaks the pattern in their season. That is not small. That is the ravens. That is how the pre-positioned provision moves. Through people who are willing to be the couriers. Be the courier for someone you love. Stay connected. There are more words coming for the seasons ahead. What is being prepared for those who stay aligned goes beyond what a single message can carry. And the words that belong to your next chapter are already being formed. Stay in this space so they can find you when they arrive. The eagle is in the air. The thermal is real. The provision is on its way. And the richness that God has assigned to your name forever does not have an end date. Rise, chosen one. This is your season. There is one more thing I want to speak to before the sacred closing takes its final form. One more thing that needs to be said clearly, because it is the thing that most people do not ask, but almost everyone is wondering. What if I do all of this, and the circumstances do not change? What if I practice the receiving practice and take the surrender test and open my hands and trust the thermal, and the provision still does not arrive in the time frame that I need it? What if the alignment and the identity declarations and the whole brain tool and the sacred closing all happen, and I wake up tomorrow in the same circumstances I woke up in today? What then? This is the question that faith has always had to answer, and the answer is not comfortable, because the answer is this. Then you continue. You continue because the pattern established by the ancient witnesses is not a short-term transaction. It is a long-term alignment. Solomon, did not receive the wisdom and then the wealth in the same moment. There was a period between the request and the fulfillment. Elijah did not arrive at the ravine and find the ravens already there waiting. He arrived, and then the ravens came. Joseph did not walk out of the prison the day after the formation was complete. He walked out in the exact moment that the provision that had been prepared for him was positioned to receive him. The timing is not yours. The timing is Jireh's, the God who sees forward. And here is what the continuance looks like in practice. You continue the receiving practice, not because it will force the timeline, but because the posture of receiving is the posture that keeps the channel open. And you continue the surrender test in the areas where the striving has been most exhausting and least fruitful. And you continue the evidence practice, the daily 60-second review of what has already been confirmed, to keep the declarations from fading under the pressure of the circumstances. And you continue showing up in the specific, faithful presence of the person who knows that the formation is for a purpose and that the purpose is real, even when it is not yet visible. You continue, not in the numbed desperation of someone who has nothing else to try, but in the settled authority of someone who has heard the ancient witnesses, who has seen the pattern, who knows the name of the God who pre-positioned the provision, and who has decided that the evidence is sufficient for continued trust. Not trust without doubt. Trust that carries the doubt with it and keeps walking anyway. The kind of trust that says, I do not have all the evidence I would prefer, and the evidence I have is enough. Enough to open my hands, enough to spread my wings, enough to keep walking in the direction of the calling, even when the provision has not yet arrived. That is the quality of trust that the season of formation produces in the vessel it prepares, not the naive trust of someone who has never had reason to doubt. The seasoned trust of someone who has had every reason to doubt and has chosen, day after day, in the face of every circumstance that presented the opposite evidence, to trust the thermal. That trust is not common. That trust is not produced by a single powerful message or a single act of spiritual will. That trust is the product of a formation that was long enough and deep enough and specific enough to produce it in the particular vessel that was being prepared for the particular provision. And that trust is what you carry out of this season into the next one, not as a certificate of your spiritual achievement, as the operating system of your new life. The operating system that runs on alignment rather than striving, on inheritance rather than earning, on the posture of open hands rather than grasping ones. The operating system that the ancient witnesses all ran on in their seasons of greatest provision. The operating system that the God who sees forward designed specifically for the people who are called to receive what only He can give. The eagle that has found the thermal does not continue to fly by the wing-beat memory of the time when it did not know about thermals. It flies by the new knowledge. It operates from the new experience. It uses the muscles it has, but it uses them differently. In the service of the current rather than in the generation of the lift. And once an eagle has found the thermal, it does not forget how to find it. The pattern becomes available. The knowledge becomes part of the operating mode, and every subsequent flight begins with the knowledge that the current exists and is available to the one who has learned to spread their wings in the right place at the right time. You have learned, not everything, not permanently, without the daily renewal that the receiving practice provides, but enough. You have learned enough in this season to step into the next one differently than you would have stepped into it without the formation. You have learned the name Jireh. You have learned the pattern of the ancient witnesses. You have learned the distinction between working from fear and working from knowing. You have learned the receiving practice and the surrender test. You have heard the 5 declarations and the evidence practice. And you carry all of that into tomorrow, into the week ahead, into the specific circumstances that are waiting for a different quality of engagement than the striving mode could provide. This is the season, this is the turning, this is the moment the thermal meets the wings. And the God who commanded the ravens and stored the grain and turned the pit into a palace and named himself the one who sees forward is the same God who is watching this message land in the spirit of the specific person he navigated to. The specific chosen one who was formed for this specific season, whose provision is pre-positioned, whose gifts are purified, whose kleronomia is established, whose richness forever is not a metaphor but a reality that is already in motion toward the coordinates they are walking toward right now. The thermal is real, the current is rising, the wings are open. And the richness that belongs to your name, that was established before the foundation of your story, that was pre-positioned before you knew you would need it, that has been moving toward you through every season of the formation, that richness is almost here. The eagles are rising, and you are one of them. I want to close with something that is specifically for those who have found this message at a moment of genuine crisis. Not just spiritual restlessness, actual material crisis. The kind where the practical needs are pressing and the timeline is short, and the encouragement of a spiritual message, however true and however well received, must eventually meet the hard surface of tomorrow morning. If you are in that kind of crisis right now, I want to speak to you specifically. The pre-positioned provision is not indifferent to the urgency of your need. The God who commanded the ravens commanded them every morning and every evening without exception. He did not lose track of the schedule. He did not forget about the timing. The widow's oil did not run dry the day before she needed it. It ran continuously for as long as the need was present. The grain storage Joseph administered was not generous to everyone except the people who needed it most urgently. It was generous specifically to the most urgent need. The urgency of your need is not outside the sight of Jireh. The God who sees forward has already seen the specific shape of your specific crisis. And the provision that is moving toward you is moving with awareness of the timeline, not your manufactured timeline. The divine timeline that takes into account both the urgency of the need and the readiness of the vessel. If you have received this message with the openness that brings you to this closing section, the vessel is ready enough to begin receiving, ready enough to open the hands, ready enough to turn from the horizon and let the ravens that are already on their way find you facing toward them. The first step is the only step you have to take right now. Not the whole journey, just the first step. Open your hands, literally, right now. Hold them palms up for 30 seconds and say, I receive. That is the first step. And the God who sees forward, who already knows the second step and the third and every step that follows, he will show them to you in their time. Not all at once, in their time. One step at a time. With the same faithfulness that sent bread to the ravine every morning. With the same faithfulness that kept the oil flowing as long as the jars were present to receive it. With the same faithfulness that turned the pit into the preparation for the palace. You are not alone in this crisis. You are in the care of the God who named himself the one who sees forward. And he has already seen the resolution of what you are carrying right now. He is not worried about it. And the most useful thing you can do with the trust that this message has been building is to decide right now in this moment to hold his lack of worry as more authoritative than your own fear. His seeing of the resolution as more reliable than your experience of the crisis. His pre-positioned provision as more real than the current evidence of lack. That decision, made once today and then made again tomorrow morning and the morning after, is the receiving practice at its most essential level. It is the choice that the formation has been building your capacity to make. It is the wings spread in the direction of the thermal. It is the amen to the season of provision. And it is available to you right now, regardless of how long the crisis has lasted and regardless of how thin the evidence for trust currently appears. The eagles are rising. The provision is on its way. The God who sees forward has your name on the pre-positioned inheritance. And the season of richness forever, the season that was prepared before the need existed, and that is moving toward the coordinates you are walking toward right now. That season is not a future promise. It is a present reality that your open hands are making available to receive. Receive it.